There you go. All right, we're on. All right.
Yeah.
Excellent. Only
So-
took us an hour and a half.
Sweet.
So let's see
Nice.
here. Yeah. All right. So it looks like nothing I'm doing is yeah. I just minimized Discord, so nothing I. It looks like nothing I'm doing right now is interfering with what's on screen. So I'm just gonna go. Wait. Oh wait. Hang on. No, I need to. This needs to be full screen so you can see, right? Or. Hang on. Here's gonna be the trouble, so that you guys can see. You guys can see there, right?
Yeah.
Because the trouble is going to come when
What's the trouble?
What's the trouble?
the trouble is this. Hang on. Can you see what I'm doing here?
Yeah.
Yes, you're moving group
Oh, good.
around the list.
Oh, then we're golden. Okay. Yeah, all right. Let's just do this, I guess. Let's just jump right in. So I swear
Okay.
I found there's a lot of these. Have you ever seen these, Dan, the tier lists?
I don't think I have.
I found these. There were a few guys doing this. Some of the YouTubers have been doing this before. Like they do the same thing, just run it through, record, and do it with either friends or just by themselves. But yeah, there's some for Game of Thrones. I saw one for MCU or Marvel movies, or I mean some of the Disney animated movies. There were a few that I saw, but I thought this was one that we could all go because we've seen all the Marvel movies, and yeah.
Yeah.
I found some that were ridiculous. I was telling this to Gavin. Like I saw one where they had both roadies, both Terrence Howard and oh gosh, Don Cheadle. Like both of them were on the list. I'm like, why do you need both? But I saw this one and I thought this one looked pretty even. Like enough characters, not like the ridiculous amount of characters on there. Just the ones. So
Okay.
basically, what you do, you just assort it into different scales, just A plus. So I don't know
And
if
we
you guys
can
want to change.
customize those.
Yeah, that's right. So
names. Usually it's like S tier at the top.
so yeah, you can
And we can
I'll
also customize the colors.
hang on a second. I'll go blue for that one, and I'll call it S. Okay. There you go. So the S tier is the top, and then A, B, C, D, E, F. That's probably good. So
I think F should be red.
and I'll change that. Right, that's red.
It's like, it is
And then it's
bad
like
to be
slowly-
good.
Slowly progress
Like
from that.
green, or hang on,
Well, we need like orange, right?
orange for get
It's
up
gonna
like
slowly go up.
okay. Orange. Let's see. Yellow.
Yellower.
Well, here's the question: like, do we want hot colors to be good, or
I was about to say, I was like,
cool
And then go to like blue, that blue, and then the
I don't
other
think there's a
blue.
right answer. I just think that
Yeah,
we
which-
should probably have, it
That
makes
one.
sense from a color wheel standpoint.
I mean, all these look exactly the same. They're just like these tiny little differences. Like I don't. It's just like, let's just,
True.
I don't know. Like here, let's make these like, can you get like darker? Hang on.
Evan, I think the only thing you need to do is just make sure that the top color is the coolest.
Yeah, that's
I think
blue's
you've already
fine.
done. You've got
Yeah, there you go. That's decent, right? Or
I think the one thing I would recommend. What's S?
S tier is the top. Like that's how it is in a lot of
Super.
people. Some people do A plus, but like S tier is like the top grade, like the best of the best. So
I must be getting old because I look at that and I'm just like, that's out of order. Like A is best.
well, we can stick
I
it
don't
to
know
A
what
plus.
S is.
It was A plus before. If I can change it back if you'd like.
Yeah, it's fine. You're more in the times than I am.
I don't know if it's even in the times. It's just for some reason that's what a
So
lot
we-
of like.
We
those
can
are.
change the names of these according
Yeah.
of like what we think is proper. Evan and I had F as a specific character last time as a joke.
Yeah.
I'm not
Okay.
sure if it'd be
And,
proper to
yeah, and
to
we
do that
did.
in the super professional stream.
And we did something for the B tier too. So yeah, we could just mess around accordingly. So yeah.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
I think B tier is fine. I think we called it Baby Groot tier.
Yeah. So yes.
Yeah.
So how do you guys want to like go about like ranking this? Because like we can judge. Here's the thing: there are some characters on here who are like only in like one or two movies, but then you have other characters, like Bruce Banner as the Hulk, who's been in a lot. So it's going to be like, are we basing this off of like the quality of the
I
characters,
think
like how
I
inter-
would go
Well,
on
what's-
like just writing Like how well they're developed and stuff like that.
Maybe.
I'm just
How
gonna
good of a
speak.
character they are.
I just want to speak as someone who's completely unaware of this whole deal. Are we ranking every character in the MCU based on if they're great or if they're terrible? Like, what's the purpose of this?
I think it's just
Yes.
to I think it's just to put them to like rank them based on like I don't know, like how well they're written or something like that, like best to worst get basically. So
Here's my thought. My thought is we can go one by one, but very quickly we're going to find that if we put someone in one place, we're going to want to mix them around. So I say we just like pick a character, stick them up there, and then eventually fill it out. And then once it's filled out, we can start moving stuff around because
Yeah.
by the time we get
Yeah,
to that
yeah, yeah.
point, our opinions are going to shift and maybe how we feel about
Yeah.
a character once we see the whole picture. Will
I think we can
change.
absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
shouldn't we be able to move stuff while we're doing it?
Yeah,
like,
we can
we
do
have-
that too.
yeah, they can move
Because
around.
it's pretty
so, yeah.
easy to move stuff.
Yeah.
Let's just pick a character and start from there, though.
All right.
Okay, so Abominations first up?
First one, Emil Blonsky, or Abomination. He's only in the Incredible Hulk.
It has been so long since I've seen The Incredible Hulk.
Yeah,
I personally would put him down in the F category.
I was telling
I
this,
think he's.
I was
pretty
telling this to
bad.
Gavin. We started one of these, and I was like, I like that Tim Roth plays him. I'm like, that's kind of cool. It's like, it's all right, but it's like
But that's just the performance.
yeah. I mean, he's kind of okay, and
Like,
like
even if I wouldn't call him bad, I would call him flat. Like,
really
He's
flat.
not.
What-
He's very
What are you thinking, like E or F or?
hastily.
I'll be honest, I would rather put him in E because the one
Yeah.
scene I remember from The Incredible Hulk was the scene where he straight up charges the Hulk with a couple of pistols and doesn't die instantly.
Yeah, that was awesome. I love that. He's like shooting a handgun. He's like flipping around, and then he takes
It's
like a
pretty
punch from him.
impressive
It's like
to
yeah.
watch that.
I must have not seen that movie longer than you have.
I think
even I don't remember that scene.
I've seen that more than once. That's a decent movie. So yeah, all right, we'll put him in E for now.
Like twice or something.
The Ancient One.
Ooh.
I love Tilda Swinton. I think
Same
that
here.
one of my favorite small characters from Avengers Endgame was her reappearance in the 2012 New York timeline. So
Yeah, she brought it.
I would put her in probably the B category.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Because although she's not fleshed out as like a fully rounded character, like a Captain America, like a primary Avenger, she's one of the more fantastic mentor figures of the series.
Yeah.
Like that scene with her and Steven in the astral plane outside of the hospital is one of my favorite scenes in the MCU.
Yeah, that's really
I think they
good.
do a good job with her.
Yeah. So B
She
tier.
hasn't really had any. She hasn't really had a taint on her record.
Yeah.
No,
She,
it's
she was-
Tilda Swinton.
yeah, exactly, man. She's
Yeah.
amazing. I love her and freaking everything. Scott
Ant-Man.
Scott Lang. So yeah, Ant-Man.
I would put him in A tier.
I'm not going to argue that. I love both Ant-Man movies.
Yeah,
I think that, and I think to
Well, actually,
he really stand out in the movies like Captain America: Civil War and the Avengers Endgame.
yeah.
do
Honestly,
you
I think
we should
Scott
put him
is.
in S tier.
I would put him in. I would put him in A tier
Yeah.
for now. I might change my opinion later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he's really well written.
I think the only
they've done
kind
a great
of
job.
small thing on his record would be like Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Yeah,
when
he's-
kind
he's-
of bumbling.
He's a little underused in that movie, unfortunately.
He's a bit underused and a bit inconsistent in that. But that's
Yeah.
the only thing that I can really see.
Yeah.
I think other than
appreciate your
that, they do a
opinions.
great job.
You are both wrong.
I'm a fan of Ant-Man and the Wasp. I wish he'd played a more significant role. But yeah, I think they've done a really good job with him. Baby Groot.
B probably.
Can I be honest?
Yeah.
Baby Groot doesn't do a whole lot for me.
I mean, like, not many Groots do. I'm like, the Groot does in the first Guardians, but this is the whole thing. Like, you have Groot and like Teen Groot
Well,
and
Team
Baby
Groot
Like,
gets the axe.
that's literally all that Teen Groot does, though. Other than that, he's
Can
literally
I-
playing video games the entire movie. It's like
Can I get some context? Is this Groot as a whole or just Baby?
This is just Baby
this
Groot.
is Baby Groot. They have different Groots there. So
Okay, I'll throw it out there. I would put him in C. I don't
Yeah,
think that he's a bad character. I think that the best stuff with him tends to be how other characters react around him.
Yeah.
Because essentially, Baby Groot
True.
is exactly that. He's a baby, and basically his role in Guardians of the Galaxy 2 is to serve as like the child of the other Guardians. So I think as a function of the plot and as a function of how the characters are growing closer together, I think he's good, but I don't really think he's as effective on his own terms. But to be fair, he is a baby, so he's not necessarily going to have a fully divine personality. But I am not as overwhelmed by the cute little baby Groot. So I would say C.
Yeah, C sounds about right.
Yeah. Again, like you said, not inherently like poorly written, but just like other characters bounce off of him, and he's not exactly the most interesting character.
Like I would easily put like adult Groot in B for sure.
Yeah,
because like he has such personality and such charm, and there's a lot I remember about him.
Yeah, and there are a lot of things in the plot which like require him, like the prison escape, and him at the end is "We Are Groot." Like he has a lot to do in that movie.
Okay,
Bruce Banner.
Ooh.
Here's the thing, like I
might put him in C tier.
I love him in the original Avengers movies. He's great in Age of Ultron and the first Avengers, but recently I feel like they've been ping-ponging him. Like they can't decide whether he should be more like the Hulk or he should be regular. Like Thor Ragnarok balanced it, but like with Endgame, they kind of removed the Hulk and he's significantly less interesting. He's basically like green Bruce Banner, and it's like I wish you'd been given
flip-flopping a lot on him.
What do you think, Dan? Like,
I really found myself falling in love with the character in Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah, he was great.
I think that up to that point, he had been not uninteresting, but one of the less interesting Avengers. And he's unique for having been out of the primary cast. He's the only actor who's not had his own standalone movie.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think that he's very good in the first Avenger. I think that he's very good in Thor Ragnarok. I would disagree with you. I think that he's excellent in Avengers Endgame. Although he is not playing up the more tortured soul.
Yeah.
To be fair, they've been doing that for so many movies, and I think that one of the strengths is to break characters out of the molds that they've been trapped in for.
Well, inside of Avengers Endgame, they kind of inside of Avengers Infinity War, they kind of baited that he would have some sort of arc to go through with the Hulk. That he would, like, the Hulk wasn't wanting to come out, and we assumed there'd be a payoff in Avengers Endgame, but there really wasn't for that. They seemed to kind of
Can I just say that
just kind of drop it.
Can I just say the directors themselves have said that that was not what their intent was?
Regardless of their intent, it still was a clear setup from Infinity War.
Well, I mean,
I disagree with that.
Well, I mean, you don't even need to just consider Infinity War.
Disagree that it's a clear setup?
I disagree that it's a clear setup.
Well, hold on.
How so?
Okay, well, what are you saying is being set up?
It's being set up that the Hulk doesn't want to come out.
Okay.
So we'd assume that there's some sort of conflict to go through there. There's going to be a trial. There's going to be an heir. There's going to be something that Bruce and the Hulk have to work out.
I would say there is a conflict. I would say there is a conflict, it's fully. I would disagree. I say we do.
We see it off screen.
When?
He resolved his issue by Endgame.
Let me explain myself. There is a conflict between Hulk and Bruce in Avengers Infinity War that has a beginning, middle, and end.
Mm-hmm.
And
really?
yes.
Yeah.
So at the beginning of that movie, Hulk is out and he fights Thanos and he gets badly beaten. And then he is transported to Earth where he transforms back into Bruce Banner. And essentially the initial conflict starts with the strongest character we know getting just completely obliterated by a character that we've met for the time and turns out to be one of the more dangerous villains in the MCU. What later happens in Act 1 is Bruce, in an attempt to help his friends, tries to force the Hulk to come out, and the Hulk will not come out. And that is something that continues. And so that's basically like your middle. So the beginning conflict, Hulk gets badly beaten. Middle of that conflict, Bruce and Hulk are Bruce is trying to get the Hulk to come out so he can save his friends. end of the conflict is when the Hulk continues to refuse, and Bruce stops trying to help his friends by bringing the Hulk out, and instead helps his friends as Bruce Banner, ultimately killing Cull Obsidian with the Hulkbuster armor without the Hulk saying it at all. So I would say that the Avengers Infinity War arc for those characters is Bruce moving past relying on the Hulk to be helpful and being the best he can be as Bruce Banner. And ultimately, the conflict you're talking about, Gavin, is resolved off screen, but that is the continuation of that conflict, not the conflict that I have in mind in Infinity War. I think there's a pretty cool conflict just in Infinity War alone.
I would classify what you said as the end, and like a continuation of the middle, just because even Bruce Banner himself said that, like, Hulk, we have a lot to work out, pal. There's still something to go on from there. It's not a clear-cut conclusion for Hulk's or Banner's arc.
Yes, but it is. But
Banner
it is
has
clear
learned kind of
cut
to
in
not
the
rely on the
context
Hulk,
of
but the
Infinity.
Hulk still doesn't want to come out. But then that's
But
resolved.
that doesn't really matter as much in Infinity War. Infinity War is Bruce's story, not the Hulk's story. Like,
True,
I would
but
say that
there's
Ragnarok
still the
more
loose end of, like, Hulk doesn't want to come out.
Yes,
So
but it's not a loose end. It's a story thread that gets continued.
It doesn't get continued.
Well,
It does in Avengers Endgame.
No, it doesn't.
How does it not, Gavin?
Huh?
How does it
Because
not?
it's just resolved off screen.
It's resolved off screen, but it's continued along. Like they're like, basically you have what it is. Like, what do you mean? You're saying there's nothing that's like at all, and I mean Bruce is still there. He's still
the
interacting.
Hulk and Bruce conflict is just kind of dropped.
Yeah,
I would disagree with that
Well,
entirely.
I got over it.
my trouble
I would
more.
disagree with that entirely. Like, one of the first things he says to Natasha, Steven, and Scott is that after the snap happened, he says that basically, like, before the snap happened, Hulk was beaten, and after the snap happened, Banner was beaten, and both times Hulk and Bruce felt responsible. They felt guilty for not having been able to do more to stop the violence that happened. And so ultimately, that those shared feelings of defeat and guilt bring those two characters together. Yes, it is resolved off
Really?
screen. Yes.
I don't remember that from.
Yeah.
That was in the dialogue?
Yeah. Natasha tells him nobody blames you, and he says, "I did." And that's
But
when
does that
that's when he
necessarily
moves into
mean
his
that-
conversation. Go ahead.
Does he then say, like, Hulk and I had an agreement?
He said
No, he
Yeah,
says.
that's
I'm
okay.
he started
trying to remember
looking.
what he said.
He started looking as the Hulk as as the cure rather than like the disease. That was essentially it.
Right.
And like best of both worlds type thing. My trouble is more the fact that like the Hulk kind of ceases to exist. Like I think it would be more interesting if it was like a dichotomy, like, you know, kind of like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, but like you don't really see like the whole, like he doesn't get like overtly frustrated. It's kind of like Green Banner, and I'm fine with what material Bruce has. I like that he's kind of like, you know, off the wall and quirky. Like he's acting like Bruce, but I feel like in Endgame, like the Hulk wasn't quite there. Like, I mean, that's the whole thing. I think he could have been more interesting if they manipulated the Hulk, and who knows, maybe they'll do more of that in the future. But I think they could have done more. I don't think it's necessarily bad. I just think it could have been a lot more interesting.
I could go on and on about this, but I'll stand by my.
Yeah,
Regardless of whether we have an agreement totally on this or not, would we agree with like the tier?
Yeah, where
that
were
we're
you?
putting him in?
I think
B tier, yeah.
Yeah, I just set him there because I was tired of keeping the cursor up. You guys are on a roll, but yeah, B.
He's certainly not a C character. I think that Thor Ragnarok makes him a B character on its own terms.
Absolutely.
Yeah. If there was like a tier between B and C, I specifically might put him there just because of how much he's been flip-flopping. But I think B tier seems like a good idea. I don't think he's C tier.
Yeah, and we could put a B minus if we need, like later on. But I think B is pretty good.
Of course.
He's pretty well written.
I think B's a good tier for him, or at least right now.
All right, T'Challa.
Oh dear.
So let's
Honestly,
talk about his appearances. He's been.
Civil War.
He was in
Infinity
Avengers
War.
Infinity War, and he was in Avengers he was in Black Panther.
Yeah.
So it's Captain America: Civil War. He was in his own movie, Black Panther. He was in Avengers: Infinity War, and then Avengers: Endgame.
Yeah,
honestly,
I would say. Go on, go.
Could I possibly voice something?
Yeah, go on. Absolutely.
This is mostly kind of on the subjective train, but I didn't really like how instead of Black Panther, he was just kind of the juice.
What do you mean?
And that's all his superpower came from. Because he by himself.
Well, Gavin, that's not related.
Useless.
That isn't related to the character. That's related to the storytelling. Because that's not in Civil War.
True.
It's in the comics too. Like the heart-shaped herb, all of that is from the comics.
Yeah, Gavin.
It is.
Yeah.
But again, the comics isn't necessarily the movie.
But he's not useless. On the comics,
that isn't
by himself, right?
What do you mean useless, Gavin? He can still fight. He fights in the Trials by Combat. Like he's
had to learn how to fight.
Yeah,
like that is his own skill. The heart-shaped herb gives him enhanced strength and speed, so it makes him a better fighter. Like he can still early on in the movie, he fights M'Baku without the heart-shaped herb and still manages to beat M'Baku. And M'Baku later has. He's fighting like Thanos' army, so it's not like he's completely useless without it.
And in Civil War, before he became king, he also fought Bucky, and Bucky is trained martial artist assassin, so it's even with
didn't he have the Black Panther juice at that point inside of Civil War?
It's not established.
What did the directors say about that? I don't know if they ever talked about if he was fully the Black Panther in terms of his powers at that.
The whole trouble that you have to deal with here is that basically you don't know how any of that happened because all of it's off screen. He puts on the ring essentially. He says, "I'm gonna kill him myself," and then he's in the Black Panther suit. I honestly always thought that he'd had it before, or that that was obviously he had the super.
But only the king's allowed to have it.
Well,
he hasn't become king as of that.
Well, he became king when T'Chaka died
in Black Panther, but not inside of
War. He's already king at the beginning of Black Panther.
I feel like we're going down a tangent. We can argue.
Yeah,
the way he gets his powers is lame or whatnot.
Again,
I think there's really only two things to talk about.
The character.
He's in Captain America: Civil War, and he's in Black Panther. Those are his two primary appearances, and the ones that matter the most in terms of his character and his story.
Yeah, because in Infinity War and Endgame, he basically is there to be the leader of a battle. Other than that, you don't have anything with him. It'd be like Aragorn if he just led the charges, but other than that, you don't get other dialogue with him in Rivendell. So
right.
the material with him is in Civil War and Black Panther. I love him in Civil War. I think he's one of the best parts of that movie. But I think in Black Panther, everyone was talking about Killmonger and everyone was talking about the rest, and I think.
Evan, you're coming in a little bit fuzzy.
A fuzzy? How does this sound?
Okay, I was wondering if it was just. No, you're going
Oh, I'm cutting out. Hang on. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, just a little bit.
All right, I can't hear it on my end, so I'm gonna have to. Can you hear this?
Hello? But that might fix it.
Are you hearing what I'm? Are you hearing me now?
Try talking again, Evan.
Can you hear this?
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
Just let me know if I'm cutting out again. But yeah, I loved him in Civil War. I think they did a great job with him in that. But I think for Black Panther, everyone was talking about Killmonger, and I think just he got overshadowed by the world building and all that. His character doesn't do all that much for the story. All the progression with him revolves around other characters and other events, and he just kind of decides certain decisions about where things go. But he doesn't he's honestly a passive protagonist inside of Black Panther, which is a shame. Tony Stark is an active protagonist in his first movie, and really in all of his movies, he's manipulating the events of it. You could argue maybe against Iron Man 3, but I think they did a great job with him in Civil War, but he was underused in that, and I think in Black Panther he's overlooked essentially. So I think
I might put him in C tier. That's
where I think I would put him too.
I would put him in B tier if we only had Civil War, but because we have Black Panther, I think I might put him in C tier.
What do you think, Dan?
I would make an argument for B tier. This is my reason. I think that the cool thing about T'Challa is his story is not as much a superhero story. It's more of a story similar to what you see in like The Lion King. It's a story about kings. It's a story about succession. It's about betrayal. It's about secrets. And I think that in the context of Captain America Civil War, when he's on a quest for vengeance, it has a lot of weight to it, and it feels very that character feels very potent and very dangerous. I think that I don't think he's a passive protagonist in Black Panther. I feel that if you recut The Lion King, where you gave equal screen time to show the conflict that was happening with both young Simba after he's grown a little bit and Scar, I think that you would have a similar problem to what happens in Black Panther, where ultimately Eric Killmonger becomes the far more interesting character and the one that ultimately has more of a defined and interesting arc. I do think T'Challa does have an arc, but it's less interesting than his antagonists. So I would say that he's not bad in Black Panther, but he is overshadowed and ultimately less. What's the word for it?
Utilized?
It's not utilized, but his arc is not as emotionally satisfying as Killmonger's.
Well, if I was to kind of prod this, what was the decision that he's made inside of Black Panther that like affects the plot in any way?
The major decision is essentially changing centuries of Wakandan tradition from essentially being an isolated community that protects itself first and values their independence above the rest of the world. He chooses to share and accept the risk that brings.
That's the thing that kind of happens at the end, and that's kind of like the theme package.
Well, yeah.
What
First
would
of
be
all,
something that like happens in his conflict with Killmonger, which is the majority of the story?
Gavin, 1 second. The first thing with that is like that does happen at the end, and also like Killmonger is essentially the main reason why he made those decisions. Like the whole thing with the lie, like his father and like killing his brother and all that. Like all of that led to his decision, but it's like it wasn't based on choices which he made. It was based on like events which he witnessed. That's one of my troubles with it. Like. What are some other decisions you think, or like?
I have a decision I would say that I think is probably the most important that he makes and the one that has the most significant consequences. He chooses to go after Claw himself, and ultimately he fails to. He makes a decision not to kill, and that decision creates dissent among the ranks of Wakandan leadership that ultimately leads to the brief civil war that occurs at the end of the movie. He makes a
decision not to kill Claw.
He makes a decision not to kill Claw. Basically,
well, he didn't get Claw.
No, he
didn't. Claw. At the end of the scene, car chase, he has Claw by the neck, and he could just rip Claw's throat out right then and there, which is ultimately what. What's the?
No. But then, like, what's her name said like there were too many people, and you saw like people with iPhones.
Right, so, like, but he still had the choice. He still made the choice not to.
Yeah, that was.
He made the choice. He made the choice to bring him to the CIA headquarters alive.
Mm-hmm.
Well, like if he had killed that person right in front of all those people, then he would have been wanted.
I agree, but this is what I'm saying.
It's a choice, though. I think would have a lot more impact if it didn't have that like huge thing.
His choice is understandable, but ultimately the decision, regardless of his intentions, nearly led to war in his own country. Like he makes a decision and it turns out to be potentially the bad one. That's what I would say is like one of his critical decisions.
Maybe.
I'm not saying it's the most compelling thing, but I'm arguing that he's not a passive protagonist. A lot of the decisions that he makes ultimately turn out to be the wrong decisions, and ultimately he has to learn from those mistakes and grow by the end of the movie.
I would argue that like he doesn't. His decisions don't really feel like they're made by him. I guess as like a decision. I'm trying to word this properly.
Like,
it seems like he has to make the decisions they make. It doesn't really seem like he has a choice at a lot of points.
well, not really,
I
Gavin.
don't think that's necessarily a problem with the character. It's a problem with the storytelling.
Which again is what I think a lot of this comes down to, because I think that the story of Black Panther could have been a lot better. It could have centralized more around him, and like you can't really blame the character for like how the movie is written. Unfortunately, like you can blame it on his writing as a character, but like the story itself is more what attributes to the problems, because it's focused a lot more on like kind of the entire culture of Wakanda, and obviously he's a side character inside of Civil War, so like, you know, he just hasn't been given much material to work with. And like I said, I think you could have a fantastic sequel to Black Panther, which just maybe shrink it down a little bit and like deal with the consequences of Black Panther and Endgame. But I'm fine sitting him in B territory right now, because I feel like he's waiting to be given a great film. It's just we haven't seen that yet. So
yeah,
I guess so.
I'm just considering this. Like, I'm really not prepared to put him on the same level as Baby Groot at this point. He's far more interesting than Baby Groot, and he's had far more worth shown on screen than that.
Oh, come on, Gavin. No, let's put him in B for now. All right.
I can stand that. I can put him in B for now.
Bucky Barnes.
One of probably the best supporting characters in the whole.
I honestly think he could go.
Sebastian Stan's been.
I think he could be a lot better.
Where's his tripping point?
I would definitely.
He doesn't really have necessarily a tripping point in terms of writing. He just doesn't really have much to do after. What is it? Winter Soldier. Winter Soldier is where he gets his.
Oh, he's given a lot of material in Civil War, Gavin.
In Civil War too.
And the first Avengers, and in all three Captain America movies, he's given material between him and Steve.
I guess so. But I would say, is he interesting by himself, or is he interesting just because he's with Steve?
I think he's interesting by himself. Like, you have all the material.
I would say
like,
most of his interest comes from his interactions with Steve and how he reacts to.
Well, I mean,
like
he's the character who like he shares the most dialogue with. But like they're like he's a character by himself. Like they find him like in that foreign country. I forgot which one it was. Like the police are like coming for him basically, and like Steve stops him. But like they show that he's like had a life after Winter Soldier. He's basically been living like on his own, like hiding, and like, you know, there's all this stuff with his past. I think he stands by himself. I don't think he's just like the guy who bounces off of Steve. I think they give him good material. I think he's one of the better supporting characters. I would love to see like wherever they go with him now, because I think without Steve at this point, I think you could have a really well written story with him, maybe with Sam, maybe like whatever it is that he's doing right now. But I think in the Captain America trilogy, he's really well developed.
All right, I can put him in. I can buy that.
Do you think A tier, Dan, or B?
Yeah, you gave a lot of the reasons I would give.
Yeah, I go on.
One of my favorite things about him as a character, I've always loved what Renee Belloc says to Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Ark. He says that I'm a shadowy reflection of you. Yeah. I feel like Bucky is in many ways a shadowy reflection of Steve Rogers, and which is ironic because when you think back on the first Avenger, Bucky was who Steve wanted to be. He was this like tall, handsome, strong man who was going off to fight the Nazis, and ultimately their paths diverge. Ultimately, Steve becomes that person even more so, and Bucky has a terrible fate await him that ultimately turns him into this pretty horrible monster. And I think that what I like about him is, as a supporting character, I feel that he has experienced more change than most supporting characters do in this world.
Yeah. Like
almost every movie he's been in, he's experienced change, even if it's minimal. Like, I have always loved that moment in Infinity War where we see him and he's basically acclimated to life in Wakanda, and T'Challa brings out this new vibranium, and he just looks at it for a moment, and then he just looks up at him and says, "Where's the fight?"
Yeah.
Like he's a bit disappointed that he's being asked to go fight again. Like he's sort of found a bit of peace, but he's still willing to do that. It's as much as it's hard for him. He understands that it's something that he is quite effective at, and he's willing to help out the people that need it.
Yeah.
You know what? My mind's changed. I would agree. Put him in A tier.
Awesome.
Give that man a medal.
Give him a metal arm. I love Bucky. He's great. Steve Rogers. I don't think there's any.
Steve.
I don't think any debate is here. I think he's definitely S tier. Any of you have any objections? Yeah.
The thing that I've always remembered, as Steve Rogers was introduced into the MCU, you look at what's been happening in Marvel Comics. There was a storyline that was introduced called Secret. I think it was called Secret Empire.
Oh yeah,
and it was essentially about Captain America being an actual sleeper agent for Hydra, and it was a character that was completely different to what was being shown on screen. And a lot of the criticism that was sent towards that character seemed to come from fans of the movies that were seeking out the comics to read more Captain America stories, and they were very disappointed to find a character that was very different from the one they fell in love with in the movies. I think that that portrayal of that character on screen changed people's perceptions of Captain America. I think even Josh Whedon, the way that he portrays Captain America, shows a disconnect from the person that's in the Captain America movies themselves and in the other Avengers movies. Like, I've always been amazed how, when I'm trying to think the best way to put this, the portrayal of Steve Rogers in these movies, for me, is what I've always wanted a Superman movie to feel like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I think that the closest I've gotten to that is Keanu Reeves.
I'm sorry, what? Like, what, you cut out there.
The 1977 movie with
Christopher Reeves.
With Christopher Reeves.
I'd love to see Keanu Reeves as Superman, yeah.
But I think that one of the things that has been brought up as a criticism of the 77 movie is that it's cheesy. Like, the inherent good of Clark Kent and Superman seems cheesy.
That is kind of his character in the comics.
But here's the thing. Like, I would say that it's not cheesy. The portrayal can be cheesy, and I think that the portrayal of Steve Rogers in these movies nails down on that feeling I want to get from a Superman movie. Like, I think that I talked to you guys about this back in Infinity War. There are two huge crowd-pleasing moments.
Yes.
One of them, the one that everyone knows, is Thor arriving at the Battle of Wakanda and just laying waste to Thanos' army. That's a great moment and a big moment. But I remember that there was even a bigger cheer earlier in the movie
when
where
Steve came on the train.
Black Order comes to kill Wanda and Vision, and you just see Steve's silhouette. He grabs Proxima Midnight's spear when she throws it at him and just steps out of the shadows. Like, he is not Thor. He is not going to lay waste to an army on his own.
Yeah.
But there was something about that moment where yes, but like, there's a moment where you just realize, like, everything's going to be okay.
Yes,
Captain America's here.
Exactly, like that. I remember we talked about that because that's one of my favorite moments in Infinity War. But it's like in every other fight in that movie up until that point, like, the heroes had just, like, been beaten to a pulp. Like, Iron Man, Doctor Strange, like, and Hulk were all there, like, in New York. So was Spider-Man, and still Doctor Strange got captured. And, like, every other fight, like, everyone's been beaten, and then finally, like the most powerful superheroes, like, in the MCU with Wanda and Vision are, like, getting beaten, and then Captain America shows up with Black Widow and Falcon, and they defeat the two members of the Black Order. It's just so satisfying. I'm like, yeah, I'd like all that they did with him.
Can we change that tier so that it says S for Steve? So Steve.
Let's go.
Just Steve tier.
Just for now, yeah. Yeah, I've been amazingly to make that character just fully rounded and get past people's perception of him as a one-note cheesy relic from World War II.
Because that's all that I knew him as when I went in the context of the comics. Like, you know, he shows up in Secret Wars and stuff like that, but like I didn't know who he was behind the shield. But like these movies, they've elevated his character to such a high proportion. Like the amount of development they've given him over like the course of several movies. Like in every movie, he's given a significant amount of development. It's great to see. So yeah.
And can I just say something that just struck me? Black Panther's place on this list, but I think it says a lot that as we were talking about him, we were kept referring to him as Black Panther, but when we were talking about Captain America, we kept talking about him as Steve.
Yeah,
because
I think that says a lot.
Definitely, it's not the superhero; it's the character. Absolutely. Carol Danvers.
We're gonna have a debate coming up soon.
All right.
Oh no! Bump that baby down.
Okay, so here, I'm just gonna set her here for now. Here's the thing that I have for Carol Danvers. She's just been in 2 movies right now. In Endgame, she essentially shows up as like the hope that they need. That's one of the things which I like. I remember they kind of baited that with the trailers, that she would show up and she would like help them defeat Thanos because like she'd provide an edge. But then she does. She overpowers Thanos, and like they only need like a couple of them to lock him down and kill him. But then after that, she goes away because like there's nothing else for her to do. And I like when she comes back in Endgame, and essentially she is what they wanted at the beginning of the film, but it didn't do anything then, and it does then. Like she destroys Thanos' flagship and gets a one-on-one with him. I like the material that they give with her in Endgame. I don't think she does much. I'd equate her to someone like, honestly, Black Panther instead of Civil War. I think they do something similar to what they do with her instead of that. But honestly, for what she has in Captain Marvel, I think she was kind of put to the side in that movie. Like I don't think her character is what shines the most. I think it's the charm of that film, and I just think recently she just has not had anything. I'd put her a notch or two below Black Panther, because I think you could make a great Captain Marvel film, but I just think from the material she's been given, she's not been given anywhere near enough to make her interesting. So
yeah, I think that the trouble with Captain America for me is the way they chose to tell her story, and it essentially is deliberately obscuring her background. It's deliberately obscuring her true self. Ultimately, she, for all intents and purposes, starts the movie with amnesia, and the character that we meet at the beginning of the movie is ultimately not the person who grew up on Earth and became a fighter pilot and had a friend and had a good friend that they grew up together, and they shared memories and experiences and loss together. We don't learn that until far later in the movie. And so I think that my favorite things in the movie in relation to her character is everything on her friend's farm, where we actually learn who Carol Danvers is. But I think it's a little too late to have the impact it should have, because you've basically had a good solid hour and change of the movie past this point, only to find that the character that we think we know is essentially been gaslight for several years of her life as she's been indoctrinated into the Kree tradition, and they've essentially been using her partially out of fear, but partially out of greed for the power that she has. So I think that it's just a storytelling problem, not as much a character problem. And I agree with you. I think that there can be a good story told about her, but I think that the way they told her story in Captain Marvel was in a way flawed, because I think that her best friend, the other Air Force pilot, I think she was a far more compelling character, and she had far less screen time than Carol had in that movie as a whole.
Really? You think the Air Force pilot best friend girl was a better character than Captain Marvel?
Yes, because I knew more about her.
Yeah.
I could see her, like, even just being in her home, I could see her life. I could feel how her experiences of like losing her best friend out of the blue, like it hurt her, and the fact that her friend just shows up, it'd be like if a family member died and they just showed up on your front door one day. Those emotions she had felt real, and they felt very human. And I liked the fact that ultimately Carol sort of kind of reconnects with her friend through connecting with her friend's daughter. And that's sort of the bridging point. So there's a lot I like about that. I think that Carol's personality and her the best of her doesn't come out until far too late in the movie for it to really make a difference. So I would agree. I would say she's a C-level character at this point.
No.
Pending a movie that makes her a much more interesting character from the onset.
Honestly, Gavin, I think you're gonna. Gavin, before you go, Gavin, I know that you're gonna like go off on this. My note that I would throw in there is like I think I agree that both Black Panther and Captain Marvel it's more of a storytelling problem than it is a character problem. That like I think you could do a lot with them, but they haven't.
I would disagree.
I think that Captain Marvel like has a lot more wrong with their character, or at least that's underdeveloped. I think if you were to write a sequel, you would need to expand on her character and the story, like give her something unique. I think Black Panther, there's a lot more character there for you to use, but I would honestly probably put her in the D tier or C tier because she's similar to Black Panther, where I think you could have a great film, but I think from what we have right now, there's not enough. Go on, Gavin. I'm sure you are not a fan of Captain Marvel at all, so
I would put her right beside Abomination, where she belongs.
Seriously.
Yes, she's an abomination. For one, she has no weakness or flaw or thing to overcome. She is a perfect character.
How so, Gavin? Listen. I will debate this away. Like, how?
List one point where she makes a mistake or loses.
She doesn't necessarily have to lose, Gavin. You don't need a character to lose to be like interesting.
Then what are her flaws as a character?
Someone's been listening to Mahler too much.
Someone has a brain that's thinking about the movie.
Gavin, listen. How about her? Like, just. What do you mean a flaw? Like, what are you trying to lock down here?
A flaw in her character, something that is a human flaw.
She's cocky. Like she's someone like she's quick
and for
to
good
a fight.
reason. She can't lose.
She does not early on in the film. Like in Captain Marvel, she doesn't know that. She doesn't have she hasn't unlocked her power yet, and she does lose. She gets captured by the Skrulls. Like you don't need someone. You don't need him to be like. You don't need her to be like overtly powerful to like, and that doesn't like make it so she's not.
She is
interesting.
Overtly powerful.
She is overtly powerful, but that doesn't mean that there's nothing to do with her character at this point. You can. It
doesn't mean that there's nothing you can do with that. There are a lot of things that you can do with that, but they choose not to.
They haven't yet. Here? Yes, go on ahead.
I think that her greatest strength is also her greatest weakness. One of her first lines in Captain is she has a nightmare, and she goes to see her teacher. I'm trying to remember his name again.
Lord help me,
Jude Law character. The Jude Law character.
Yeah, I know Jude Law, but I forgot his name.
And yeah, basically, like she knocks on his door. He wakes up, is like, yep. And then her next line is, "Want to fight?"
Yeah.
I think that her greatest strength is that she doesn't really let things get to her. Like she kind of sees life as a con. It's an arena for her to do battle in. But I think that can also be her greatest weakness, is that because she sees sort of every interaction in life as conflict, she doesn't actually have anyone that she lets into her life who can actually speak into her life. And ultimately, her journey in the movie, she reconnects with a long-lost friend, and she makes a new friend and someone who can be a compatriot in life through Nick Fury. So I think that her her willingness to always rush in and treat it like this is a fight and I'm going to win. It is a strength of hers, and it does pay off in some respects, but it also isolates her from people. And ultimately, I think, although it's a flawed way of getting to that point, her journey in Captain Marvel is to let people in and not see every interaction and every encounter in life as a contest.
Yeah. Honestly, for me, like if I were to go about writing her arc instead of the sequel, I would give her something similar to what they tried with Poe in Star Wars: Last Jedi. Like the line, like there are things you can't solve by jumping in an X-wing and blowing stuff up. Like she needs that. She needs to like be in a situation where like they need to like strategize. Like I would love it, honestly. Like I think you could have done great stuff with her being on the time heist, where like they had to be careful and like they had to like think everything out. She doesn't, and she just like shows up like to fight at the end. So like I think what you could do, which would make her a far more interesting character, is if you gave her material where she needed to like interact with other characters or like, you know, be a spy or something like that. I like I said, there's a lot more that you could do with their character right now, but what I don't like is that like there hasn't been an unlocking moment. Like there's been hints, all the stuff with their friends and all that, but I'm like I think recently they need to give her like, I don't even know. It's like they just, there hasn't been much that like you said. I think the more trouble is that we don't really know who she is as a character, because she essentially has amnesia in the first film, and like even then it doesn't get like what you could make for an interesting sequel is if like something showed up from her past, like a past adversary, and like she slowly remembers as the film progresses, and like maybe midway remembers everything, and then you have like a full-on like, you know, rivalry between the two characters. I think that could be interesting, but like again, like I said, I think from what they've given her, there's just hasn't been enough, and I think, yeah, honestly, I would put her probably same place as Baby Groot. I like, again, we're like, you know, bounces off characters well, is okay, but overall they haven't given her enough. I don't think she's anywhere near, you know, freaking Abomination, and I would put her in D personally, but I think that C is probably more appropriate, because I don't think overall she's a bad character. I think just she's been like really, really underdeveloped, and I think it's probably I think it's probably a side effect of them trying to rush her writing, because essentially they wanted to make the movie before Endgame, and then Endgame came out. So I think if you give her to writers who like have more time, I think you can make a better movie. So yeah,
she's functional. She's not engaging.
Yeah. Gavin, are you here? I think you had to extend something. Are you here, Gavin? Gavin's not here right now, so we can leave her at C.
Okay.
We'll have to
just leave her there.
Yeah, we'll leave her at C for now. She might get moved later on. We don't know. Okay. All
right.
Tanelier to Vaughn.
How many movies is he in?
I think he's in the end credits of Thor: The Dark World. He's in Guardians of the Galaxy, and then he's in Infinity War, I think. And I think he died.
Oh, wow, he's only in 3, yeah.
I think he died in Infinity War too. I think they revealed like Noah was essentially on fire when Thanos was there, and like they implied that he's dead. And I love Benicio del Toro, but I mean, like, what does he do? It's like he just.
I'll say this: he is incredibly memorable in both major scenes that he. I think that I've always remembered his weird scene at the end of the world, where he basically for the first time confirms that that we're dealing with the Infinity Stones in the Marvel universe.
Yeah, that was a really good reveal.
And I loved the slowly building tension in Guardians of the Galaxy, where he's doing an explanation of the Infinity Stones, and I've always felt like that scene was leading towards him about to attempt to kill the Guardians. That ultimately backfires when his assistant reaches out and tries to take the Power Stone for herself.
Could have been.
So I would say that he's not a very interesting person. I don't think he meant. I think that functionally, in the scenes he's in, he's effective and creepy and weird. So
yeah,
I think that where you have him is good. He's just
again, it's not a constant. Sorry, go on.
I think he's functional, so I think sea level.
Wait, did you cut out or did you stop? Again?
No, Gavin's.
Yeah, I think he's bouncing in and out between.
Hold on, I'll
Yeah,
spend my
I'm
time on
here.
the computer.
You're in now. Okay.
Oh, okay.
All right. Good. Yeah, I agree with you, Dan. Like he's effective. Again, I think Benicio del Toro's charisma probably like boosts him up a bit, but like, and again, I don't think it's a
They don't
consequence
do
of
anything
poor
with
writing,
him,
but it's
really.
just like he's just in a few scenes and he like expositions essentially. So
He's
yeah,
not really a full character. He's kind of
Yeah.
just an entity.
Yeah.
He's not really developed.
I
I
think
think
C is
Jeff
alright.
Goldblum is far more interesting
absolutely.
and fun as what was his character again? It was the Grandmaster.
Grandmaster.
So I think that
And he has a
compared
bit
to
of
the
development.
Grandmaster, I think compared to the
Well-
Grandmaster, he's far less exciting.
Yeah.
I think I would put him and the Grandmaster about the same level. Just kind of not really. It's not that they're not entertaining. They are entertaining, but they're not really characters, or at least fully developed ones.
They're very like minimal supporting characters who do
They're kind of like cameos. They're like
sort
kind
of.
are there.
Yeah. I don't think. Are you guys comfortable with C for
Not
now?
necessarily bad, but not really like of quality.
Yeah.
I'm willing to keep him. I'm willing to keep him.
All right.
I would bump him down to D tier.
Let's leave him at C for now. All right. Phil Coulson.
Okay.
Okay, so can I just say from the start, I have watched one episode of Agents of Shield. Can
I don't-
leave
we're
that
not gonna-
out of this
Yeah.
conversation?
We don't need Agents of Shield in there.
Axe Agents of Shield.
They haven't even
Only
confirmed
MCU.
like Ghost Rider exists in that. I'm like he would have an impact on the MCU. It's like Daredevil where I'm just like let's just leave that out of the picture for now. So yeah,
All right.
so that means
So just his movie appearance.
Kept Captain Marvel at C.
which yeah, we kept it her there at C. We can debate that away. I know that you had more to say. Let's so
We can get that later. We can get that
okay.
later.
So he's an Iron Man. He's in Iron Man 2, and he's in the Avengers.
His prominent role is in Avengers.
Yeah, in which he dies
Honestly-
essentially, and bounces off Steve, which is kind of cool. But I
You have him where I would leave him.
B tier. you think?
I wouldn't put him with. I would not put him with Tilda Swinton. I think I would put him with Baby Groot.
My trouble with him is that like he has an impact. He doesn't have much of an impact on much of anything. Like I like him and I love Clark Gregg as an actor, but I'm like he doesn't do much in any of the Iron Man movies or inside of like the
Would you
Avengers
say
has the
like
most
from
role.
a character writing perspective?
Yeah,
like
he's a Steve
he
fan. He's-
deserves to be with the Hulk and with Black Panther
yeah,
right below. I
It's
don't
not-
think so.
It's not necessarily because he's a badly written character. It's that like he hasn't been given much material. I think it's just like how little he's been in the MCU. Do you think C or B or?
I think that's fair. I think if you drop him down a little bit, it's fair. I think it's unfortunately a side effect of the character is so charming and charismatic.
Yeah.
I think that it can sort of overshadow the fact that there's really not a whole lot we know about him as a character. He's more entertaining than engaging. So yeah. I'm willing to go with that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and he was in Captain Marvel. I forgot about that.
I did remember that, but he doesn't do anything.
Brock Rumlow.
I might.
A very cool recurring villain.
Yeah.
A couple of shows.
I love him in
I
Winter
think I would
Soldier.
put him
Like
with
he's
Coulson. I think he does a great job there.
you want to say like because he's only in 2 films. He's only in the beginning of Civil
Yeah.
War. I like him for what he.
I
has.
wouldn't say
I'd say
C
C.
is an insult. Like C, I would say like a solid C. He did a great job. For what
A
he did.
solid C. That's pretty good.
I'm
What did you say, Dan? Did you
It's
say
middle. It's middle of the road. I think he's an effective villain. I really begin Captain America: Civil War as the full-on crossbones.
yeah?
And I think that it was see him be essentially a very normal person as a villain in Captain America.
Yeah.
And he essentially starts up what becomes the Sokovia Accords, which
Yeah.
is one of the main
right.
conflicts in
His
Civil War.
death an attempted suicide bombing ultimately sets that plot into motion.
But he didn't necessarily plan that, though.
Curiosity. How many characters are there? Could you scroll down?
Yeah, this is taking a bit. Yeah.
Holy.
Okay, can we start to speed this up a little bit? I don't want to be here all night.
We don't.
Let's speed this up for at least some of them.
Okay,
I think we can speed it up
for a while. So
small things like crossbones we can get easily.
Do you want to put him on C for now?
D.
D?
D.
He's a big floating head. I like him, but there's not much about him that's. I definitely think.
Well, for putting him in D, I'd put Coulson in D as well.
Well, not necessarily.
Dormammu has a functional place in the.
Wait, no, hold on. Wait, I thought we were
still talking about Crossbones.
Yeah.
Dormammu.
No, I'm talking about Dormammu.
Wait, where would you put? Hold on. Where would you put Crossbones? Is he C or?
C.
Okay. All right. Okay. Dormammu. I think definitely D or E.
I would say E.
I love him. I love him inside of the comics. He's great, but it's like, you think.
We haven't seen enough of him. He's in one scene.
We hadn't seen anything of him. We've seen him in one scene.
We'll put him in E for now. Drax. This is where it gets interesting. I honestly think
this is where some interesting things go.
I
would put him in S.
I think he could go in S. I think he's been superbly written recently. Like I love the material they give between him and Mantis instead of Guardians Volume 2. I'm like, I think like all the past they've given him, like he's funny and he's like kind of a comic relief in some of the action sequences of the movie, but like during the character moments, he is really well written. I don't think he has like a stumbling block. Would you put him in S or where would you put him?
I think that he's the longer he's been in the movie, the more they lean on him as comedic relief. But I do agree with you that Guardians 2, I think he's at his best in that movie. He's very funny, but he's the most emotionally mature of the Guardians.
Yeah.
Like one thing that I always liked about him is they hired big WWE wrestler, and they essentially cast him as this very emotionally vulnerable character. Like I've always loved the fact that Drax has no insecurity about talking about like sex and like really difficult conversations. Like he talks about death and life, and he doesn't seem to really feel uncomfortable broaching topics that make other characters uncomfortable. He seems to be very at peace with himself and with life around him. So I think that as funny as he is, I think that especially in Guardians of the Galaxy and especially Guardians of the Galaxy 2, he's a very interesting character, particularly because of the actor they cast to play him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm fine putting him. Do you want to let's leave him in Steve tier? I think he's great. All right. Ego.
I think he's a fantastic. I would probably put him in B category.
I honestly think he's given a lot of really good dialogue material. I love him he's only in one movie, but I think he's given a lot of really good dialogue. I put him in the same. For me, he lands in the same area that Ironmonger does. Like I love Jeff Bridges. I love what they do with him, but it's like it just in the end he just kind of becomes a massive monster, and it's just It's less interesting in the third act, especially since it's pretty predictable to get there, but I love what they do with him. And like for me, like kind of the conflict between him ends when like Peter just guns him down. Like that's a really good moment, but it's like he's not very interesting after that. I think he's probably in the B tier.
I would say I would put him in C tier with Crossbones. Like just because
with
for writing wise he doesn't really do much. He doesn't. I would say he's a lot more interesting just because of Peter. He's not as a character like by himself very interesting.
No, they give him some pretty good material inside of Guardians of the Galaxy. They pour into him like what he did, his past, and like all the things that he did. They give him motivations. Like he's a lot clearer like in what his goals are and like who he is as a person and someone like the Collector. Like the Collector,
guess so,
you don't know.
But would you put him with Bruce?
Yeah.
Yes.
For only being in one movie, for the material that he's given, I think he's pretty well written. He's solid.
This is what I like about him. I think that once again, shadowy reflection of his son Peter. Peter is ultimately
But there it is.
an
He's not really
emotionally
interesting by himself.
No, he is interesting by himself because ultimately, like he is a lonely god who is emotionally unstable and isolated and extremely, like the name would suggest, an extremely egomaniacal character. And ultimately, the interesting thing about him, and I think what's all Peter Quill, is they ultimately both find their like meaning through connection with another person. Like for Peter, it was the connection with his mother. And for Ego, it was also his connection with Meredith Quill. But ultimately, Peter's relationship with his mother, even though he was away, is what keeps him grounded. It's what keeps him in the light. Ultimately, Ego rejected the connection that he had with Meredith by killing her, and he chose his isolation. He chose his ego. And ultimately, that's what ultimately leads to his defeat, because despite how powerful he is, despite how incredibly immense he's alone. The Guardians ultimately, their role is to be a connected family, and they ultimately go on to defeat him. So I would say that he is interesting on his own terms. Yes, part of it is because of his connection to Peter, but I think on his own terms, like how many bad guys have fallen in love in this world? Like, that's a pretty cool thing. Like, you get to see his love story. It ends horribly, but it's not just a ploy. He genuinely falls in love, but unlike he rejects love, and ultimately that's why he's the villain.
Yeah.
I guess so. I guess I could go with that.
Yeah. All right. Ross. I think that's his name.
I would put him in D. He doesn't do anything.
C or D, I don't have a huge opinion.
I love Martin
would put him
Freeman, but
in
yeah,
D.
like I can't even think of something that he does in either Civil War or Black Panther.
I can't think of a single trait of him.
He shoots down the weapons plane.
Yeah.
Ultimately, he's sort of the fish out of water.
He took a bullet
Yeah.
for Michonne. It's like
And then they put
For Michonne.
Is her name named Jira? Like, see,
I don't
this
know
is
her
the thing.
name.
I don't want to take risks with her
Michonne.
bloody name. Okay, D tier, unfortunately. Sam Wilson. I think he's easy A for me. I love the material they give with him, and I think
with Bucky, great character.
I think him passing the shield, Steve passing the shield to him completely makes sense. I love all the material he's given in Winter Soldier. Like Winter Soldier alone, he doesn't have much of a role inside of any of the other sequels, but I'm like, just in Winter Soldier, man, the amount of dialogue he has with Steve, I'm like, I love what they did with him, and I think he's really well written. So
I've said this once, I'll say it again. Steve found a brother. In Sam, he found a friend.
Yeah.
They're soldiers. They both carry the scars of war. I mean, one of the first major scenes that we see Sam in after the initial encounter with Captain America is he leads a support group for soldiers who came back with PTSD. He's someone that is ultimately, essentially, a modern day soldier, and that's what gives a connection between him and Steve. And I just think that I think that it's just cool how it's a strange thing to say, but he just feels like a real. I think that the difficult thing with comic book, because you're going so long, I like that Sam just feels like a very real person in this very unreal, very heightened reality.
Yeah,
I would agree. Definitely A tier.
All right.
What's his
Nick Fury.
Nick Fury.
Nick Fury.
Furry.
I can announce, by the way, Gavin.
I have so many conflicted feelings about this because I think that arguably fewer characters have been as influenced by the actor playing them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I think that it's a very spotty track record with how that character has been utilized within the large.
I would say he's almost a flat line he's consistent, but they don't really do much with him.
Yeah, honestly, I think the
He always
best
kinda seemed
material he's
like,
given
I
is
am the leader of Shield, and he didn't really seem like much else other than that.
yeah, I think the best material he's given is the first Avengers. Actually, like he's essentially having to like bring everyone together, and like he's dealing with like the turmoil of that. But other than that, like
Right.
he just shows up and drives the helicarrier at the end. He's in
And it's not
Captain
that he's
Marvel.
not
It's like,
good, he just doesn't do much.
I
He's
would
just kind of
still
flatline.
agree he's B.
yeah, honestly,
Yeah, I guess
for me,
so.
Samuel L. Jackson elevates it, and I it's not like he's been poorly written. I think they give him bad material in Captain Marvel.
Are we taking performances into account for this?
Yeah,
Yes,
we can do that.
100%.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
I was just wondering. I wasn't saying it as like a
No.
criticism. I was
Yeah.
just...
Yeah. I think that we can
Legitimate
include
question there.
performances. So yeah.
Okay.
All right. B. All right.
Gamora.
Gamora.
Absolutely yes.
I would probably put her in A.
Mm,
She's given
well,
really.
think about her with Thanos. Think
I was
that
about to say some of the
connection.
best
And
material
also
with her is actually in
with
Infinity
Peter.
War.
And also with Peter.
I'd
Like,
say
those
she's
connections
A.
are very strong.
I would say she's A. I think she's awesome, and
Wait, you're cutting out,
I
Dan?
think
Wait, you cut out a little. What was that?
I would say she's A. There's not whole lot I would complain about, but when I think about her sister for me is S tier.
Yeah, I love Nebula. I think she's freaking amazing.
Yeah.
I think I love the material with her in Endgame and Infinity War. Like, I think that's honestly some of the best she has. But yeah, like she's certainly an A. I think she's just one drop away from an S though. So
Yeah, she's very close.
I think I would disagree with that, but I can live with putting her in A,
all right, Ghost.
D, or even E.
My trouble with her is that
Really, what is her character?
her motivations all come down to self-preservation. Like I like scenes with her, like when she says like it hurts and all that. Like it's cool, but it's like she's just like, I want to save myself. We need to absorb the quantum realm. It's like, I don't know.
I agree, and I'm saying this is a big fan of that. The individual scenes that she's great in do not build up and equal a great character, which is a bummer because I think that a lot of those scenes are fantastic.
All right.
I was about to say that F tier doesn't exist, but we haven't done an F tier. But I was like, oh wait, we have one coming up.
I
Once
honestly,
again, just like not as charming.
but I'm sorry. What was that? Like you cut out.
Just like Baby Groot, I'm not as charmed by the cat. A lot of other people seem to be.
Like there's no dialogue or anything like that. She it scratches Nick Fury's eye out and like it eats the Tesseract. I'm just like it comes out of nowhere. It's the mentor's cat. It's like, and literally, where the hell did it go? Like that thing could have defeated Thanos, and I don't get it. It's.
Oh my gosh!
I'm willing to put him there mainly because he's part of a joke that I hate, which is
What was the joke?
in the eye by a flurgan.
What was the joke that you hated?
The fact that Nick Fury's eye patch had nothing to do with anything meaningful. Only had to do with the fact that he got scratched by a flurgan.
Yeah, that was terrible. So yeah,
it's embarrassing. Right. Gee whiz.
Okay, F tier for certain. The Grand Master.
I think we should put him just along with that guy.
I say C.
Yeah.
Can you put him right along alongside
he's stacking up with B? I would say he's C.
Yeah.
Could you put him right alongside Coulson and like the other guy?
Sure.
What's his name? I don't know what his name is.
The Collector.
Collector.
Yeah. Okay. Hank Pym.
Hank. C.
I would say B.
I think he's been given pretty good material.
What has he done? What
there's
a lot has he gotten?
There's a lot of good dialogue with him in Ant-Man. Like he has a past. That's one of the best parts about him. Like there's a lot that's implied instead of the first Ant-Man, and there's a lot that he talks about, like his history, like working for Shield. I
like that they embrace that he's very flawed.
Yeah,
that he's a good man who has a lot. Ultimately, he ruined. He ruined the relationship with his daughter by not being willing to be open with her, in grieving with her after they believed that Janet had died. I think that he's one of the big hearts of the Ant-Man series. He's this very smart, intelligent, but extremely closed off, suspicious man who certainly has his reasons to be. But I don't know. I think that it's cool that a character that in the comics has been controversial for certain decisions that were made with him. I like the fact that with that character they embraced a lot of that controversy and sort of built into the character, made this very messy guy who is a good guy, but ultimately he's his purpose in the movies now is to act as a mentor to his daughter and to Scott.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm fine putting him in B. All right. Happy Hogan.
How many movies has he been in? Like, there was kind of a point.
He's been in a lot.
For a while.
I think he is he in all the Iron Mans? He might not be in 3. He's in Spider-Man and Spider-Man Homecoming and Far From Home. He's in Endgame. He has a great scene in Endgame.
Oh yeah. I would say B.
Yeah, I would put him in B.
Yeah, he's just a drop away from A for me. I'm like, I love what they've given him. I think, yeah, all the stuff with him in Iron Man, it's similar to Pepper Potts. I'm just like, I love the interplay that he has between characters. I think they do a great job.
He's much better than he has any reason.
Yeah.
They give him a lot of stuff.
Absolutely. Clint Barton.
Hawkeye. B?
Can I just be honest? I think Jeremy Renner was miscast.
Really?
Let me be clear, though. I think that from Avengers Age of Ultron onward, he started to get past that.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. I've always felt like he seems a little placed in certain elements of that world, but I think that Jeremy Renner, from a performance standpoint, really elevated the character in certain scenes, particularly in the scenes where he's Tasha.
I would say when they gave him a family, that's where it became most interesting.
Especially
inside of Endgame.
My trouble with the family is that they didn't do anything with it. Like, everyone was like, he's given a family in Avengers Age of Ultron. I'm like, yeah, they're all flat.
They do a lot.
They do in that, but in Age of Ultron, they're just his family, and they just
I would agree.
The best scene in that movie on the farm is the whole cutting logs thing.
With him has been in Endgame.
Yeah, which is a shame, and I'm like, I would love to see where they go. I'm like, I would see a Ronin TV show. I'm like, I'd see where they go, but he honestly for me is similar to like someone like Black Panther or Captain Marvel. Where I'm just like he's just waiting to be a great character, but just the material they've given him, it's not really all that much. Like, they even make a joke of it instead of Age of Ultron. They're like, we're on a city with robots and I have a bow and arrow. None of this makes any sense. It's like, they just haven't done much with him. I'd love to see more from him though. See?
C tier sounds about right.
All right. Heimdall.
I quite like him. I think that actor to take essentially purely supporting character and make him far more interesting and lively than he had any reason to be. Particularly, I would say, in Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah.
And even though it's briefly, I think he has an extremely strong standout moment in Avengers Infinity.
Absolutely, yeah.
I think C tier seems about right for him. Just because he doesn't really do anything.
I don't have a major opinion.
Not that he doesn't do anything. It's just that he kind of is very consistent. Just kind of like Nick Fury.
What I like about
he's not really developed.
What I like about him though is that in every scene.
In every scene, what?
In every scene he's in like all the Thor movies, in Avengers, he oozes power. There'll be scenes in the first Thor movie where he's just standing at attention with his sword, and even though he's not actually doing anything beyond dialogue, you get the feeling that he could kill almost anyone in the movie.
Yeah.
Like, he could almost single-handedly just take down anyone. He's sort of like this silent rock. Mm-hmm. And it's sort of interesting just how I always felt that way whenever I saw Heimdall in a scene. So that's the reason I would usually bump him up even though he may not do a lot compared to other supporting characters, I always had a certain feeling about him whenever he was in a scene.
I guess so, but I think with like Happy Hogan's writing and stuff like that, I think he gets more in the Hawkeye kind of tier rather than like.
He's in the same realm as Nick Fury for me, where I think Idris Elba like boosts the character up a little bit by his performance. But I agree with you that I like what he's done so far. But it's just I would put him in B. I think he's been given good material. So
Okay, I'm fine with that.
Hela.
D.
I love Kate Blanchett to death. I love all the stuff they give with her, but like, she's just like
she's the evil man.
Not
that she's bad at being an evil man.
She's a Saturday morning cartoon villain.
They wrote her that way.
I don't think that's a mistake.
No,
it's not a mistake. It's not bad even, but writing-wise, it's not really.
Well, they did that on purpose, Gavin. Like that's clearly there. It's supposed to be tongue in cheek. I'm just saying,
as a character-wise, it's not really like very interesting. She's not really a great character or anything like that.
Can I once again quote Raiders of the Lost Ark? She is probably the best example.
Shadowy reflection.
Shadowy reflection. She's his sister, and ultimately,
well, just because she's a shadowy reflection doesn't mean she's better written.
I think she is. Like, I like the...
Really?
I like the fact that... this is what I'll say. She is not as interesting on her own. She is mainly interesting because of her...
Because of what?
I always love that throne.
Because
ultimately, Thor kind of comes to peace with his own father. And Hela does not. Hela is just filled with rage and resentment. I deserve this because of this. Like, ultimately, her and Thor have diverging. So ultimately, Thor comes to basically accept that he doesn't deserve anything. Like, he's not owed anything. He's Thor, and he's going to be him. And Hela ultimately is obsessed with being the leader of Asgard, with being the ruler. And ultimately, she doesn't care who she has to kill to get in the way, and she doesn't kill if, like, all of Asgard dies. So, I don't know.
I think putting her with a ghost sounds about right to me.
I honestly think she's at C tier. I think she's given a lot more material. I'm like, I think of
Hela and Ghost, like, those two very much click for me. They seem about in the same.
I think Hela's given more material though. She has clearer motivations. Yeah, she has a past, like the stuff with Carl Urban. Like,
Ghost has a past too, with like her father dying and all that.
That's true. I don't know. For me, I think it's where would you land her, Dan?
I would put her with D tier with
Dan.
Ghost.
Dan, where do you think you'd go?
You cut out a bit there.
I'd put her in C, but I don't have a huge.
I'm fine with C for now. Do you think it's that important, Gavin? Do you want to go D or? Let's leave her at C for now.
I would very much prefer to put her in D tier.
Before we continue here, it's 10 o'clock. Can we potentially put a cap on this at 10:30?
Sure. Yeah.
Possibly.
All right. Not possibly. A man needs to work, so.
Yeah.
I do too. So yeah. Okay.
Just scroll down. How much do we have left? We could probably power through this if we tried.
Not that
bad.
Can
we just put him at out?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Howard the Duck is fun, but he's out.
He's a cameo. Like there's nothing else to him. Howard Stark.
Howard Stark. B.
C.
I would put her in B.
I prefer old man Stark. That's just my.
Well, is the old? Hang on. Is the older Howard Stark on here?
They're played by different actors.
Nope, not on there.
If we're taking old man Stark into account, B.
I agree. Yeah. Let's put him in B then. Okay. Tony Stark. S for certain.
S.
Yeah.
Yes.
Again, no need for a debate.
He is the heart of this series. Did you see the interview that he did recently?
No.
He gave a great interview on this YouTube channel, and it was really interesting because he talked about Tony's story throughout those movies. And he talked about it in terms that I thought were really interesting. So if you get the chance, look it up.
Yeah, really well written. Janet Van Dyne.
D.
C.
D.
What material is she given in Ant-Man and the Wasp, which redeems her? I don't think she's necessarily poorly written.
Okay.
It's just that they haven't done.
Let's put her at D, simply for lack of content.
Yeah, they've done nothing with her. I think she could be in a great sequel, but it's like she lived with amoebas for like years, and it's like they don't even capitalize on that. Justin Hammer.
E.
I will argue this. He's
Really?
fantastic.
Yeah.
He is not
I wouldn't
Justin
put him
Hammer
E.
from the comics,
Not E.
No.
but he is
No, not E.
one of the best reasons to watch Iron Man 2.
Yeah, charismatic, like Sam Rockwell drives that performance. I think
And he
that's
actually has very clear motivations. I think I would put him with Hela.
Seriously? But you put Hela in D, right?
I would put Hela in D.
I'm willing to put him in C.
In C?
I'm
Maybe B
saying
is
like
too
where
much.
Hela is right now.
I'm willing to put him in C for now. But I think he's a lot more fun and like I even love that brief cameo he has in the long at the very end where he's in prison with the Trevor Slattery.
Yeah.
Like,
All right, C?
yeah.
I think it's Caecilius. Is that how you say his name?
I love Scott Derrickson and I love
Mads Mikkelsen. Oh my gosh,
I would
amazing.
put him with Dormammu.
It's a D.
Yeah,
I would put him with Dormammu.
All the good stuff with him, they cut down. Like if you watch the deleted
What is he
scenes-
though? Well,
He's-
we're not.
he's-
Are we taking deleted scenes into account?
No, we're not taking deleted scenes into account. What was in the movie? What we know from the movie is he's a man. And in an attempt to kind of find his sanity,
Henchman.
he's
he's not a henchman, but he is a henchman. Okay, functionally he's a henchman, but in himself, he is the face of villainy in that. Has one brief
That doesn't
scene.
mean he's good.
But
I'm not saying he's good. I'm saying he's D.
Yeah,
I would put him personally with Dormammu, but
he's given more material than Dormammu. Dormammu was a floating head. They give him dialogue scenes with Doctor Strange.
I feel like we should put E. I feel like we should put Dormammu and Abomination with F.
Can I just
like
say that the reason I'm
I
saying
feel like
he's
E
D,
tier seems like an extension of F.
It is. It's one notch above it. Dan?
It doesn't. It seems like a half notch above it.
I'd say the reason that he's not an E, that scene where he's talking to Strange about life
I agree.
and how ultimately he believes that death is the ultimate enemy, and that in order to conquer death, you have to pursue life, eternal life.
Well, I haven't seen Doctor Strange in a while, so I could have.
I think that's
a tremendous scene. We needed more of those.
yeah. Aldrich
F.
Killian.
F.
I do not like Aldrich Killian. I would say probably. I would argue he's E. I do not think he is bottom of.
No, bottom of the barrel.
is-
Kill him.
He is a bummer of a villain. But I do think that there is a certain menace to him, particularly in the ending of that movie. So I am willing to say he's an E and not a flat F.
All right.
I wouldn't say he's menacing at all.
The scene where he like
He's about
guns
as menacing
down
as
the girl.
most-
That's there's some stuff that they give with him, and
He's a big floating fiery mess.
not in the first act, not in the second act.
Not in the first act, but in the last act he is.
He
Yeah.
at least has more personality than Goose and Howard the Duck.
Yeah,
I'm not saying
I feel
he's
like we
good.
should combine E and F.
No.
I really.
There are varying degrees of terror. Not everyone is bottom of the. I don't think that
Alright.
Aldrich Killian is quite.
yeah. I think they give him some stuff. Eric
Claw.
Killmonger. Wait, Eric Killmonger's first.
One of the better villains in the MCU. I would
Ooh.
probably say
Ooh. I wouldn't say that. I would say C or D.
oh heavens no.
Definitely
think-
a C.
I think he'd probably be.
Definitely a B.
I think he's a B.
No.
He's
Really?
he's someone that you get to see so much more of than most villains. Like you actually get to essentially see him you get to see his story. Like that's I think that one of the greatest strengths and I think one of the greatest weaknesses of Black Panther as a movie is that ultimately the movie is more about the antagonist than the protagonist. Like one of the first people you meet in that movie is Eric and his father.
Yeah.
And ultimately from that onward is the story of Eric like slowly but surely making his way back home. And rather than it being a heroic journey of self-discovery, it's this dark journey towards ultimately a villain turn. So I would certainly argue he is not a C or D list character. He is one of the better villains.
Honestly, I love lessons from
disagree with that.
I love lessons from the Screenplays video on Black Panther. He compared and contrasted the film to The Dark Knight. He found him similar to the Joker and like how they wrote the film around him, and I'm like, I think they give him some pretty good material. My trouble mainly comes down to some like of his origins and like all the stuff that revolves around like what his dad decided to do and like the fact that they leave him behind. Like there's a lot of stuff like that like is troublesome, but I do like what
storytelling problems though. Not
yes,
really character problems.
Again, I think well, the trouble is the storytelling directly impacts his character. Like they left him behind, and then he basically became a villain as a result of it.
That's where his motivations come from.
But I do love Michael B. Jordan's performance, and I think they give him a lot more material than most villains. Like here's the thing: he's better in spades than Hela and Crossbones. Like there's far more material with him, and arguably the best scene is like the scene where like he meets his dad, like in the spirit realm. Like that's a really good scene. It's back at the same place, the apartment that they were at. Like that's a great scene. Yeah, I think
one thing I really like about him is that this is one thing I want to make an argument for. One thing that I think,
well, and we don't want to make too many arguments. We got a lot.
Well, Gavin, we can do this in two parts.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I'll be brief. One thing that is always talked about is that Professor Xavier and Nito are essentially stand-ins for Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X as like how to approach life if you're a part of an oppressed group. Like Malcolm X ultimately was a separatist in that regard versus Martin Luther King, who wanted to bring those divergent groups together. I think that sadly in the movies, a lot of that has been lost. I think that Black Panther actually manages to get that dynamic a lot better, and it makes it even easier because it is very much a movie about race. And for Killmonger specifically, it is. So I think that they managed to play out a very complex and very unique subject for a superhero movie through how they write that villain.
Yeah. Again, I think that the bigger problems with him come down to the storytelling in that film, which I think Black Panther is not a very well written film. But it's the same
problem with Black Panther. So
yes, and again, like I noticed that we put them like right next to each other, and it's like it's appropriate because. Again, like I think Black Panther could have been a lot better written, but I think the characters are pretty solid. Ulysses Claw,
he is fantastic.
It's in the same
fantastic performer.
It's in the same realm as Nick Fury and Heimdall, and like the performance elevates. Like Andy Serkis just being. A complete like Looney Tunes cartoon character. I'm like, I love that about him.
Well, that's inconsistent from what we saw instead of Avengers. No, the bad one.
He was
not really. He was still a little goofy.
Like the whole cuttlefish thing. Like he was being a goofball in that.
I think I like him the same way. I think I like him the same way I like. Like he is just incredibly
you like who?
Charismatic and entertaining. I think I like Claw for the same reason that I like Justin.
Yeah.
Okay. I could buy that.
He's fair. I don't know this guy's name.
Digimon Mansu.
Korath.
I think
I'd say D.
He's only in like 2 scenes in Guardians of the Galaxy and
he's in Captain Marvel briefly. So yeah, I'd say that.
He doesn't do anything. I think I might put him in E.
I was about to say, I'm like...
Not as a sign of disrespect, but just because he's kind of in the background. he doesn't do much. He doesn't do anything really.
Yeah.
Can I be honest? I've always felt a little bit. I've always. I remember something the actor said. The reason that he took the is I think he was talking to his son, and his son was talking about how he wished so he could be Spider-Man, because Spider-Man is white and he was black, and he took the part because he wanted his son to be able to see a character on screen that looked like who was in a superhero movie.
That's so cool.
So I think despite, and I love that story, but I do think that Korath is largely a pretty uninteresting character in a movie that is just chock full of just extremely interesting characters. But I have always liked that story about the actor.
Yeah. Korg.
But I would agree.
Baby Groot.
Korg is delightful.
Wait, are we gonna put Digimon on E?
Let's keep him
Or
at
D?
D.
Really?
I'm willing to say D.
Yeah.
He's
I
delightful.
would put no,
It's
not Core,
BBC.
Digimon.
Digimon? What are you talking about?
Koroth.
Whoever
Gavin,
is
Gavin
Korath.
Koroth.
Oh, Korath?
I think,
I don't have a strong opinion. E or I really don't have a huge.
for me, I think if he were put at E, it would be because of the lack of material for his character. It's not because of
Yeah,
his
I would
performance.
put him
Not
at
because
E
of that.
just because he's kind of like doesn't have anything.
Just put him at E. It's fine.
Yeah, he's one of the least used characters in the entire MCU. But okay, Korg.
But Korg, I would absolutely put him with Baby Groot.
Yeah, I think C. He's perfectly functional there.
Yeah,
Really great.
He's a delightful presence.
Yeah.
Not really a great character, but an amazing
yeah.
performance. and
Again,
amazing
Very
presence.
welcome.
again, Taika Waititi lifting the standards just because he's just so incredible. He's one of the lead Ravagers. What's this guy's name again?
E.
It's coming in weird for me. I can't. Who is that?
Hang on, you see?
Oh,
Is that the? Is that the?
He's one of the
He's
lead.
like,
He's one of the lead Ravagers in the Guardians films. Like I forget.
is
Like
he the one that is he the one that goes with them to in Guardians of the Galaxy 2?
Yeah,
after they destroy the Ravager
Yeah.
ship.
yeah, he lets oh gosh, what's his name? Yeah, he lets Yondu and
I'd say he's D.
yeah.
I guess
Any
so.
objections to that?
Yeah,
that
yeah.
sounds about right.
He's given more material than an E tier. So yeah.
Okay.
Loki.
Chop, chop, time is money. S tier.
Mm,
S tier.
Yeah.
He owned that part and made it his own. I would say just similar to
I would
to
agree.
Captain America.
yeah, I think he's given a lot of development and change along all the different movies, and he alternates kind of between a hero and a villain in a
If
consistent
you
And
way.
the
read-
thing
if
is,
you
a lot of
read-
stuff changes, and then a lot of stuff doesn't change, which is probably the most interesting part about him.
Yes, but here's something
A
interesting.
lot of his core fundamental values stay the same, but he, as like a person, kind of changes.
And if you read the new Marvel comics, there's it's very clear how much of an impact that performance has had on how they portray that character now. Just like Steve Rogers is having an impact on how Captain America is now portrayed.
Yeah. It's a better version of Kylo Ren and how he's changed so much between hero and villain, but it all works and it all flows across different movies. So yeah, S tier for sure.
Yeah.
Luis.
I love Luis. He's
D?
delightful. Probably D, but not for him being bad.
Yeah, it's just he's the friend of Scott. So
Yeah.
Malekith the
Yeah.
accuser.
F.
I love
No,
Christopher Eccleston. It's a terrible thing that they gave him a garbage character. I love you, Chris Eccleston, but
Yeah.
you had nothing to do. There was nothing you could have done.
Definitely E. I think he's a
What?
drop above F.
Okay,
No.
fair enough. I'm willing to accept that.
I would fight that.
Gavin,
I
along
would
with
put an F.
you think he's worse than Dormammu?
Ladies
Yes.
and gentlemen, we have 12 minutes.
Yeah, well, I'll
Okay.
close out. I'll make sure. Yeah, let's put him. Mantis.
B. I like her a
Eh,
lot.
I would
think
put her
that,
in
I
A.
think that there's a lot of stuff they can.
I think
I think I'd put her in A, right alongside Gamora.
I think she's a drop below that. Like that, you're remember you're putting them in the same tier as Sam and Scott. I think she's
Give
close.
her another movie, she'll be there.
Yeah, a lot of these characters are like that, unfortunately. Maria Hill.
D.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like her performance, but she doesn't do much of anything. What's this guy's name? You know it.
Is that Forrest Whitaker or is that M'Baku?
That's M'Baku.
M'Baku?
Yeah.
I would say C.
Yeah, he's.
I think
What does
he's
he
more
have?
interesting than a lot of the people in the characters. Ultimately, he is the other antagonist. But ultimately, his story is about how, like Wakanda, their whole philosophy is that they isolate themselves from the world and they put themselves and their society first. And
I would say he's more interesting just because of like his single ideals, but not really because like that's his only really thing that makes him interesting. Like how he views Wakanda, contrary to how a Black Panther views Wakanda.
I'd say it's not too different though. M'Baku is a logical next step to how Black Panther and most of Wakanda they view it as a place to stay away from. Like we're here in Wakanda. We stay here. We keep our stuff here. His view is like, no, we isolate even further. Like he sees them as essentially he sees their to isolating themselves too liberal. He would much rather lock things down even more. So I think his internal conflict is ultimately similar to what the rest of what the rest of the movie's about, which is how does Wakanda interact with the rest of the world.
Yeah, I think I would buy that. Coulson tier.
Yeah,
are
I can add some of these.
we naming all these? All right.
I would put Bruce tier. Bruce tier?
Maybe, I don't know. Okay.
Whatever.
Black Panther tier is fine.
It's
Nightmare.
What's his
No,
name?
that's it's Mordo.
Mordo, but yeah, Baron Mordo.
I would say C.
He's given nothing instead of Doctor Strange. Like he's a really interesting character.
Disagree.
He's a really interesting character in the comics, but like from what we've seen of him in just the one movie, it's like they don't do much of anything with him. He's basically the supporting, side hero. He's
Can I come out and make a brief defense for him?
Go ahead.
I think Baron Mordo in the comics is a terribly written character. Like, especially his early appearances, he is essentially a mustache-twirling villain.
He is.
There's nothing about him that's interesting. I like the fact that the conflict set up in this movie. I agree. In the movie itself, not a whole lot, but the roots of a good conflict are essentially it's a guy who is essentially very firm in what he believes about this world, very firm in what he believes about sorcery, and only to come to find out that is essentially part of a complex lie. And rather than being willing to accept that, being willing to accept the compromise, being willing to accept the inconsistencies, he doubles down. And his mission at this point onward is to stand by what he sees as ideals that cannot just be set aside for convenience sake. So I like the fact that his motivations seem rooted in something real rather than I just need to be the bad.
All right. Do you want to go Coulson tier? I think
I would put him in Coulson. I'm arguing for Coulson.
I would put him with Ghost and all that junk.
I would argue he's much more interesting.
He's given even less than Ghost.
He's much more interesting than Caecilius. We're talking characters in the same movie. He's more interesting.
I would say he's more interesting as someone who could be interesting.
Again,
I think even in the movie, he's interesting. Once again, shadowy reflection of our Doctor Strange ultimately has to come
mean
to.
They're good.
It doesn't, but it's a good barometer
yeah.
for when an antagonist is being written well. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, he's not just written as the Doctor Strange. He's written as someone that is in conflict with the ideas that Doctor Strange is about. Doctor Strange is ultimately about coming to grips with the inconsistencies and the unfairness of the world. and he's not been willing to accept that. Doctor Strange has been.
All right, I can go with that.
Again, like the end credit sequence for that film, like it suggests like a really interesting film. So I think I would love to see where they go with that in Doctor Strange 2. But yeah, for what it is, yeah, Coulson tier. Is it Lapita? Or what's the name of this character?
I'd say D.
Girlfriend?
I love Lupita Nyong'o, but I think that she's sadly overshadowed, especially. So there's not a whole lot. Her.
I think
what is
I would
there
put
is
her
good,
with-
but I'd say she's.
Yeah.
I think I would put her with whatever his name is, the metal cyborg guy.
I think she's given material is just not interesting.
What?
Like she has a lot of
What is
dialogue.
she given?
She has a lot of dialogue in Black Panther, but the trouble is it doesn't
Black
go.
Panther's girlfriend. What else?
It
I
doesn't.
completely disagree with that. She is the philosophical counterpoint to how Wakanda views the world. She's actually
what
been
is her
out in
view
the
of the
world.
world?
She's
And how
been
does it
out.
affect the story?
She's essentially Wakandan CIA. So she's been out in the world. She sees the suffering and pain in the world. And so she's basically come back to Wakanda to say, listen, we can't keep doing this anymore. Like, the world needs us. And to stand aside and ignore it is unjust and immoral. So she has an important role to play outside of being the love interest of the main character.
All right.
Yeah, I think D is fair. Nebula, S tier.
Yes.
A.
Yes. She's one of my favorite characters in this whole. She's a supporting character. But I think that every single has been gold. Karen Gillan just rocked it. Like,
especially
just brought her A game every time.
Especially in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I swear I love like the anime style fight that they have, like crashing the ships and each other, like using the guns from there. And then they just like get out, they just like then they start fighting like siblings, and I love that it just ends with them just talking. It's such a great bit of dialogue, and like all the stuff with her, like she's undergone a really interesting arc, and it sneaks up on you because like she's kind of one note in the first Guardians, but like the material they've given her, it's incredible. So
one of my favorite shots from Avengers Endgame is the scene with her and Tony, the Milano. I just think that it was such a neat scene that however brief it was, that was one of my favorite scenes. And them like playing paper football and Tony specifically sandbagging it and letting her win.
Yeah,
like it was just kind of a cool moment between two characters I never.
Well, did he sandbag it on purpose? Do we know that?
I think he does. That's my interpretation.
Maybe.
But I think
whatever.
This is the cool thing. For the first time, someone let her win something and was extremely like kind about it. He's like, hey, good game. Like she's never experienced that. She's only experienced someone who's always tried to win and she's always been beat. Mm-hmm. So like the fact that like, hey, she won something. Like I love how shocked she is when Tony says you won.
Yeah.
I love that.
Like, it's a cool small character moment that kind of had a lot.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Ned
leads.
I'd say C.
Coulson tier?
I'd say that he's better in Homecoming.
Yeah.
In Far From Home, but I would definitely say C.
They basically make him like a girlfriend joke and stuff with Betty. It's like, yeah.
He's kind of like the running joke.
I'd say he's better than Louise. Better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would agree. Than Louise.
And I don't think
it's just like the hero's friend.
Yeah, and I don't think like Far From Home damages his character. It's just like he's a lot more interesting.
Yeah, it's not. It doesn't open up anything bad or inconsistent. It's just kind of one note.
There's nothing new. There's nothing new that's explored with him.
Yeah.
Odin.
What have we got next?
C.
D.
I don't think he's D.
Anthony Hopkins. Gavs, think about all the dialogue and stuff like that he's given between him and Thor. It's kind of flat in some case and forgettable, but like I mean, he
himself doesn't really have a lot of character.
The performance, I would say, is better than the character, but I still think the performance has a lot of value.
I think even you could defend the character,
Okay.
the stuff from the early Thor movies. Yeah, I don't think they
I
do
think,
much
I
with him.
guess above D sounds about right.
Let
Yeah.
me put it
With
this
Coulson.
way: the scene when he cast Thor out of Asgard
Yeah,
is one of the best
Yes.
scenes in the MCU.
yeah,
Like I've always
That's great.
loved this scene. Initially, when they were playing it, Odin was like furious the whole time and like at 60 the whole time. But then after the scene was over, he's like, that's great, but do this for me. After he yells at you and says you're an old man and a fool, let him break your heart. Let him break your heart. And so you have that moment where he looks down. You can just tell how painful those words were. And like most of that scene is actually played out with Odin like sad and
Yeah.
heartbroken. And so I think that oftentimes the performance overshadows but hell, that performance just knocks a couple scenes out of the park.
absolutely, yeah. So do you want to call it a night for now? I can keep this saved.
Well,
It's
what's the
10:30.
next one on the roster? We might be able to bang it out
How many
quick.
more do we have?
Hang on, we have. This is how many in total.
Ooh.
Do you want
We
to tough it
just
out?
start just speed rounding it. I think that a lot of these.
Well, do you want to speed run all this, or
Well, there are
Okay,
a lot of stuff
how
on there
about
we can
this?
get really fast.
I'm willing to give you till 11.
you only get 11?
I
Okay.
don't want to necessarily cut this video if we need to, but I've been at Comic-Con for 3 days in a row. I need my beat sleep. So.
All right. I don't think many of these characters are like some of the craziest ones. Okay. Is this
Okay, first up, Michonne.
is this Jira? Is how you say her name? Okoye.
No,
That's right.
it's a Koye.
Yeah. Okay. Coulson tier?
I would say Coulson tier. She's much more interesting than Kia,
Then Caecilius, yeah.
Yeah.
and she has a lot more to do than like Kia.
Groot.
The-
Black Panther tier?
I would say Black Panther tier.
Yeah. Good character inside of his visuals, and yeah.
Peggy Carter. Coulson.
A. I would
Really?
say A. I would say she's definitely one of the best supporting characters. To the point where think about it, she got her own television show that lasted
Yeah.
for 2 seasons.
Considering
Well,
just the films,
She's not
though,
really interesting.
I completely disagree with that.
I think
I would say she's more interesting as
well, to say,
a
think about
connection
it, she's honestly one of the better
with
characters
Steve.
of the first Captain America movie, and they do a lot with her, like the scene where she says goodbye to Steve, and like all the stuff with her. Like I think they pour a lot into her in like the first film.
in the first one, but do you think
Can I explain what I like about her the most?
I don't think she deserves to be up with Gamora. I think she deserves to be up with down at least with Hulk.
Can I explain what I like about her that I think deserves an A rating? She is a strong character where her strength does not take away from her femininity, and
No.
her femininity does not take away from her strength. I think that
It
is an
doesn't have to. It's
Well,
I
never
think
had
that's
to.
incredibly hard to write. I think
Yeah.
No, it's
particularly
not.
with how a lot of women are being written in movies now.
Yeah, Gavin.
Oftentimes they're
It's
being
not incredible.
written the same
Hard
way.
to do that. You just need to have competent writers in your team.
No, Gavin, think about like the characters that have been written recently. Like
I'm
they
not-
call it the strong female character, and the trouble with those characters is
jeez.
they kind of become like male archetypes. Like Peggy Carter, she's someone who's tough and she can hold herself, but at the same time, like she acts like a woman, and the way she holds herself, the way she talks to people. She's gentle in her speech, and like she has the mannerism of a woman. That I think is a sign of good writing. I think they wrote her very well. So yeah, you want to go ahead?
They don't make her.
I
They
personally
don't
would-
make her ashamed of her femininity. Like some characters, if they're badly written, will say like, "What are you talking about? I'm not like that." And like it says like they like if a girl has to specifically says like, "I'm not into that frou stuff. What are you talking about?" Like almost like for some characters, if they're written and they're female, they have to reject femininity to be strong. I think that Peggy Carter is a good example of not going down that track.
I would say that in itself doesn't necessarily boost her up, but I would agree with the concept that you're saying. It
Okay.
doesn't necessarily make her like a better character, but
I think she's
would
given enough material in the first Captain America movie, and like
I
Winter Soldier too, and like
put
the
her
one
with
scene with
Black
her.
Panther tier, but I'm fine with putting her in A tier if
Alright.
you guys want.
All right.
Which seems to be how a lot of this is going.
We'll reassess later on. Pepper Potts.
Coulson.
I have mixed feelings.
Well, actually, Black Panther.
Easily B, maybe A.
I would say B. I think that she's too inconsistent to be. She's had some really solid content to where I think that she deserves
Iron Man
to be
3. Fire.
I would actually say Iron Man.
Dropped.
I would actually say Iron Man 2 is what I was thinking of more of.
Yeah, she
When?
bounces back between a lot of what she thinks of Tony and her position. When he makes her like a CEO of the company and then she freaks out, it gets mad at him all the time. It's like it.
Well, I haven't seen the Iron Man movies in a long time, except for number 1. I haven't seen 2 and 3 in a long time because
I think she's fantastic in Endgame, but that is not indicative of her average impact on the greater world throughout most of the movies. I think that her latter performances have been much better than her average performance and just character impact in the other movies.
Black Panther tier sounds about right.
Yeah, I think she has A material inside of the movies, but I think as a whole she definitely lands in the B tier. Alexander Pierce. I actually really like Alexander Pierce. I think they don't make him like a mustache twirler. Like they actually give him a pass with Nick Fury, and they make it so that you can kind of get inside of his mind. He's similar to Thanos, where it's like he wants to bring peace to the world by getting rid of potential threats. And again, with you say shadowy reflection a little bit between him and Nick Fury, where he says our enemies are your enemies. I think they do a lot. I would put him in B for sure.
That's one of my favorite lines from Winter Soldier. I'm like, why are you fighting this? We're on the same side. We're fighting the same bad. Why do you want to stop me? He's almost surprised. He actually seems to really like Nick Fury, despite the fact that they're ideologically opposed.
I would agree with that.
Yeah,
just give him some good stuff inside of Winter Soldier.
I love him in that movie. I think he's one of the better parts.
Can I just say I love the fact that
Quicksilver,
Howard.
Hold on, don't interrupt, Gavin. No, you go on, Dan.
Just a quick story.
I thought we were already finished.
What's the name of the actor that plays Alexander Pierce?
Robert Redford.
Robert Redford. I just love the fact that Robert Redford came out of retirement to film his brief scene for Avengers Endgame, because he had actually retired from acting.
Yeah, the Old Man and the Gun was the last movie that he did, and then he came back. I was like, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Quicksilver.
Put him with Howard the Duck.
Yeah.
No, he's not that bad. I would say.
What does he have? Who is he?
I'm not saying. Listen, I think that the best scene with him is when he talks about being trapped in an apartment with his sister, watching a misaimed missile, a Stark Technologies missile, land in the middle of his home, killing his parents, and waiting there with his sister for hours, waiting for it to explode and kill them both. He's someone that's experienced trauma. He's essentially lived in a world, has seen war, and he saw things that he should not have seen when he was a kid. And ultimately, he gets turned into who he is now by Hydra. So I think there are things that are interesting about him, but sadly, his life is cut short, and Wanda is far more interesting because she has more movies to be more interesting in.
I think Malekith sounds like a good idea for him, but
Malekith is far worse than him.
I think D is
he
fair.
Has enough stuff that at least puts him above that.
I haven't seen Age of Ultron in such a long time that I'm not a good gauge, but yeah, from what I remember, he's not.
I would suggest keeping it that way, pal. It's not really a fun watch.
Let me put it to you this way: Avengers Endgame could not exist without Avengers Age.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
I think
neither could Civil War.
Couldn't exist without Avengers Age of Ultron.
But what
there are
I'm
a lot of
saying
interesting
is,
ideas there, but a lot of good consequences, but the movie itself it's bad.
I don't want to get into this debate, but I would argue that Quicksilver is D.
Red Skull.
C.
Okay.
He's perfectly played the way.
Justin Hammer, yeah, sounds about right.
Can I put it to you this way? I'm not including can I not include like Spirit Ghost Red Skull in
Yeah,
this?
I mean,
yeah.
I mean, he doesn't like he even it doesn't even add to his character all that much. It's just like okay, you know,
Yeah,
all right,
It doesn't add or
he's
subtract really anything.
he's awesome. I think he's excellent.
Rocket.
Yes,
S.
Yeah, I'm
they
looking.
managed to make me cry for an animated raccoon.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to whatever material. I was mentioning this to Gavin. Like he spent 5 years with the Avengers, and I wonder what that's gonna look like in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I'm like, I think there's a lot.
I
I
they
wonder
could
if
do.
you realize Kevin Bacon isn't a superhero yet.
James Gunn was actually talking about how he's in the middle of writing Guardians of the Galaxy 3, and I think that he was implying that Rocket might actually be the central character of that movie.
I would
That
love to
would
see
be
that.
very, very interesting.
Ronan.
Although he has already had a lot of development in 2.
I like Ronan. I would argue that he definitely there's a limit to how good he can be, but I would
argue in Coulson tier.
yeah,
Yeah, see,
he's better than I think a lot of articles that are written about him make him out to be.
yeah, he's a little
Wanda,
one note,
S.
a little one note, but I think Wanda.
I would say A.
No.
I
I
think
would
A.
say she's close to S, but
I would absolutely say S.
She's a
Can I
character.
just-
Phenomenal
She's a character that the Russo brothers took, and like just like from Age of Ultron, she was just not very interesting at all, and they just gave her so much material, even just in the
From
opening
Civil
scene
War and
of that
Infinity
movie.
War.
It's incredible what they did.
Gavin, can I tell you something very exciting?
What?
They announced the second Doctor Strange movie, and guess what? She's going to be in it.
Yeah, I
I
heard about
heard
that.
that sounds great.
I think depending on how that movie does, territory. I just want to see her in another movie.
I honestly love.
I guess maybe A, just because of Age of Ultron and how uninteresting she is in that. But if Age of Ultron didn't exist, I would put her in Steve tier, absolutely.
The only reason I'm not putting her in S tier is I feel that she's shined in her relationship, but she has not quite shined on her own as much as she hopefully can in a future movie.
That's a good point. I think her material's
Well, what
better
about in Civil War? Civil War wasn't all the relationship in that one.
It wasn't, but a lot of it centered around her relationship with Vision and ultimately.
No, I would argue inside of Civil War, it mostly revolved around her failure at what is it?
Oh, when the
bomb.
bomb goes off. That's fair. I would still argue she's A, but I'm willing to be proven.
I
wrong.
would agree just because of Age of Ultron, though.
Okay, let's agree on that.
Yeah, I love her though. I think she's one of the better characters. Shuri.
Absolutely. I love Shuri. I would say C.
I would
I
say
think
D.
I think Gavin like hates her.
Okay,
I
put
don't
her
know
in D. I'm fine with
that
it.
much.
Yeah, I'm like
Rating.
I would just love. They don't do much of anything. I think D's alright. Oh my gosh. Lady, what is it? Schiff or?
Put her where she belongs, man.
She like literally got ejected. Like there's nothing that's happened to her. I think she's in Agents of Shield at some points.
I watched Ragnarok very recently. I think it was 2 days ago.
She didn't die.
She didn't die.
She wasn't there.
All the other like hero people who
got
were with
offed.
Thor got
Can I
axed
explain
or
why,
killed.
guys?
Why?
Huh?
She's starring in her own television show. That's why she's not in the movies anymore.
It's blind spotting, right?
Yeah, Blind
Yeah.
Spot is the show she's in, so she's off being busy. They haven't the show. She got very successful and people liked her, so she got in her own TV show.
I would
From the
put her in
material
F.
in the early Thor movies, she's just not given much.
She's
I think
given zip.
D.
I would say D. I would say D
She's given
Oh
some
no,
stuff.
no.
for lack of good material. I do not think she is on par with Malekith. She has more good stuff than Malekith.
Well, I would say she's given 0, so she's barely a character.
I disagree.
So
with
I
that
would put her
entirely.
in. I would put her in E for different reasons than Malekith.
She
Malekith
has
is just a disaster.
Malekith has
She's-
no personality. She at least has personality.
What's her
And she has-
personality?
she's a warrior. She's basically the opposite.
So is
of-
Malekith.
Okay, she's the opposite of Natalie Portman's character. Like, she's the opposite of Jane Foster. Like, ultimately, she's
How?
like a warrior from birth. She's like Thor. Natalie Portman's character, she's a scientist. She's not a soldier. She goes out and like discovers about the world. I don't know. She's not a great character. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying she's on
Maria
with
Hill.
Martin Freeman's character or Maria Hill.
Yeah.
She is not.
I would say Maria Hill's given at least some stuff. She's kind of like a black hole.
I disagree with that, man.
I haven't seen Thor, the first Thor, in a while, though. I wouldn't really be able to tell much about her character. I would put her in A, man.
I think D
At
is...
least have clearly defined trait.
Yeah.
Malekith has no clearly defined trait. That is completely wrong.
Rewatch the early Thor movies, Gavin. They give her stuff.
Alright, maybe I just need to rewatch something.
Scourge.
E.
I
love Carl Urban.
Are we seriously
but
gonna
he's-
put Scourge in E and not leave whatever?
Yes.
Gavin, Scourge is like they don't do much of anything with him, man. Like I never have
But
liked
he
his
has
redemption arc. I'm just
where he
like,
puts out the little M Grant.
yeah, and it
thing.
doesn't make
But
any
it's the
sense.
most predictable thing in the world.
Yeah, and it's just like,
There's
dude,
no surprises to it.
no, yeah, I just
It was being sarcasm.
Spider-Man, Peter Parker.
A.
I think
S.
A.
With the newest movie, I would say, well on his way to S.
I agree.
Yeah.
A lot more can happen with him. There's a lot of potential. I think
A
he's one of
lot
the
of his
characters who's
development with
rising.
Tony is very interesting and like very great stuff.
Yeah, I think the best
I would
decision
bump
they
him up
made
to
with him
S.
was to
As
make
of now, I'm fine with putting him in A, but I think S sounds very kind of has his
Yes.
name on it.
What was the
I think
decision?
one of the best decisions they made with Peter, a father figure for him.
Yeah.
I think I felt a little bit uncertain about that early.
Dan,
Hello?
You cut out a little bit there.
you cut out.
Can
a
you hear
lot.
me?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
hear you.
Hello?
Yeah, you're.
Okay, I think one of the best decisions they made with him, and one is making Tony a father.
Yeah, I agree. That was a wise call, and I like what they're doing with that, and hopefully they can expound on it. But yeah, from what we have so far, it's definitely an A. Peter Quill.
I'm trying to think.
S.
I would say S.
You'd say S.
Like,
Absolutely.
yeah, I think that they managed to make a character that I knew nothing about one of my favorites. And like I saw Guardians
Yeah, you saw that a ton in
movie
theaters.
ever.
He
And
is a fully developed character. He is fantastic.
And honestly,
Yeah.
his moment where he just loses his mind in Infinity War and like lets Thanos get away, like that's actually one of the better like character moments in that of like you completely
Yeah.
get it. I'm like, yeah, they do a lot with
it
him.
feels true. It feels completely true to that character.
Yeah, I love what I love him. Stephen Strange.
I would say A.
You'd say A?
I think that he's B in his own movie, but I think that his appearances in the recent Avengers put him into A territory.
I would agree with his conflict with Tony and all the interaction that we get in space. I would agree that he's on A tier.
Honestly, I think Doctor Strange 2 is one of the movies which has the most potential. I think that could be a great film.
Yes.
Talos, or is that how you say it?
I would say C.
I think
I
that's
think
reasonable.
that he's pretty
That's
good.
reasonable.
And probably one of my favorite characters. Thought it was to pull a complete fast.
I think a
one,
lot of
like
my problems
casting.
with Talos come from his motivations and like the logistics of it, rather than just himself.
Right.
I think I would put him along with Odin and like Michonne. Okoye. He's
Okoye,
not really
yeah.
much of anything.
But I think that it was really amazing that they managed to complete fast one on everyone by casting Ben Mendelsohn, who basically I think it says in his contract, I can only be bad. And they managed to make an extremely cool turn with that character in a way that felt right.
Yeah.
I would
I hope they do more with him
Argue
because like
against that, but we don't have to do that now.
I hope they do more with him because like they kind of make him a comedic relief. But I think you could do a lot.
Right. And I know that we disagree on this, but I love
what?
Love what?
I love his inclusion in the newest Spider-Man.
It's suggestive. I just it explains stuff, but it brings up a lot of other stuff. Taserface.
Taserface.
Yeah.
I'd say C. He's very
kidding, guys. S tier. That man is amazing.
He's very entertaining.
Again,
He's purely I can't think of any other character that screams James Gunn as much as Taser.
Absolutely. They dedicate every bit of material on screen at them to just making him hilarious.
Right by Korg. Holy cow.
Absolutely. I don't know who plays that guy, but he boosted it to 110.
He plays stupid so well. There's a line
it is metaphorical.
I think he's arguing with someone at one point. He's like
Rocket.
It was like Rocket or something. He's like, no, we're like a quarter is only like 1/3 of that or something like that. It's just like that's pretty great.
Yeah. Teen Groot.
C.
Yeah.
Kind of. Yeah. I feel the same way I do about him, as with maybe the one exception being when he basically forges Stormbreaker with his arm.
I mean, literally, other than that, he's just playing video games the entire way. So it's like, yeah, not much you can do.
Yeah.
We all know who it is.
Thanos. S.
S.
Absolutely.
S 100 times. Maybe like only rival Steve.
Yeah. Like what they did with him.
Okay, Steve. I would say that like in terms of the S tier so far, I would put Tony, Steve, and Thanos like in the running for the top spot.
Blowing us out of the water, Russo's with like. He was always set up to be this huge villain. We had no idea how good he was actually going to be.
Yeah.
And I certainly was very concerned about having a character like that in like one movie. I assumed he would be like, remember Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer?
Right.
Where like he tried to do Galactus. I assumed he would be like that, or even like the Silver Surfer, or Doc Doom. Just kind of meh, not really interesting, not really relatable, but they boosted it up like so well that movie is his movie.
Yeah.
And they made him a fully rounded, fully developed character in such a short period of time, and it's brilliant.
I'm amazed that they took one of my favorite characters in comics and managed to make me love him even more. Like, I think I actually love that portrayal of the character more than any other comic, including Jim Starling's Infinity Gauntlet.
Yeah. They did great stuff with him. Thor.
S. I think that it's been a long road for him, but I think that he's earned that spot through.
I think I might put him in A.
My trouble with him comes down to like how much he's been ping-ponging around. Like in all the Thor movies,
yeah,
it's like
I would agree.
He changes his personality, and it's like they can't decide what to do with him. And now he's with the Guardians of the Galaxy. It's like maybe he's gonna be this, maybe he's gonna be that. He's been so many different characters.
As of Ragnarok, we kind of got like something conclusive there.
Maybe though, like that's the thing.
Infinity War, Endgame, like those have been pretty consistent. I think they're gonna stick with that Thor, but I think I would put him in A just because of how much he's flip flopped.
I'm willing to put him in A for Thor and Thor 2. I think that Thor Ragnarok, Infinity War, and Endgame are his strongest showings.
Yes, I would absolutely agree with that.
Yeah, I think A is reasonable.
All right, fair enough. I'm willing to accept that.
It's
Thunderbolt Ross. I'd say C.
Yeah,
Coulson tier.
I think he's been a pretty good. I think he's been a pretty good support.
I really liked him instead of Civil War. I thought they did a great job with him.
Cool bringing him back. Trevor Slattery.
I like Iron Man 3, and I like Trevor Slattery, but I would say that it makes sense to put him in D.
Yeah, D I think is reasonable. Like, you got to judge him on the character that he plays, and he plays a goofball actor. I I like Ben Kingsley for what he is given. It's a twist I'm not a fan of, but yeah, that's, whatever.
Performed very well.
Ultron.
Ooh, this one it might be
D.
Performance-wise, fantastic.
Yeah.
I think from a character standpoint, I would say D.
I think we're all agreeing on that.
Yeah, I could have been great, man, and there are parts of his performance that I love, but man,
I'm not sure
if
Daniel, you've seen the Ultron instead of Avengers: Earth's Mightiest Heroes.
I have. He's scary as hell.
I love that.
Perfect, and that voice is like amazing as Ultron. What? It's gonna kill me. What's his name? Dan?
James.
He plays Ultron.
Oh, James. Oh, geez, Spader. James Spader, right?
James Spader.
James Spader, yeah.
Fantastic casting there, but just poor execution on the writing standpoint.
Yeah, I think part of it is the way that Tron is together. I think that has a poor impact on the character. But I think the scenes where he just gets to I love that scene where he comes in like the damaged Iron Man suit, and it's just basically a scene for James Spader to just perform.
I think
like that any scene that just lets him sort of go.
Same with the scene where he's talking with Vision.
Right.
But I would say a lot of his interactions with the Avengers where they're talking back aren't really great.
Yeah, I think his best stuff in the movie is, strangely enough, with Wanda and Pietro. Like, I love the scene when they meet him in the church for the first time, and he's sitting on the chair, and he's talking about how he loves the fact that they built the city around the church, so it would be, like, in the center where everyone would be able to be equally close to God, and, like, he's, like, you can tell he seems like a person.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of an interesting way to do Ultron, where usually bought with, like, who's like in denial about his humanity. In the movie, actually, he's not in denial of his humanity. He's actually extremely emotional, and he doesn't really have a problem with that, but he gets really violent and stuff. So there's a lot of stuff I like about him, but I think sadly the sum total does not really lead up to anything great. Similar to how I feel about Ghost.
I think he's a notch above Dormammu and all those other guys, but not by much, man.
There was so much more potential that could have been done. Valkyrie.
B.
Ooh. Coulson?
I think she's quite good. I
think B, yeah. I mean, she's
only in that too.
She's done some pretty good stuff from what we have.
Yeah.
I like her a lot. Want to see her more. I'm glad she's going to...
You're glad with what?
She's going to be in the next Thor movie.
That's good. Yeah. She's good. Vision.
Oh, did you guys hear that Jane Foster's going to be Thor?
Seriously?
What?
Yeah.
Jane Foster?
Natalie Portman's coming back, and she's going to be.
Really?
Yeah.
Wait,
that's gonna be tricky.
Yeah, and evidently Chris Hemsworth and Tessa Thompson are coming back.
Well, that ought to make for an interesting film. All right. Vision.
B, I'd say.
Yeah.
I think he's consistent. I think that there's a point where he stops being as interesting as he could be, but I'd say that he's consistent, and I would say B.
Like, honestly, I think out of the relationship between him and Wanda, I think Wanda is the character who feels more developed as a result of it. But I do like what they have with Vision. But yeah, I think he's probably in B tier. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hang on, how many? This is in total, Dan. Like,
Man,
you said,
it's so unfair to put him with Groot. But I would have to agree.
You said 11:30. Do you want to do this in two parts? It's
keep going. Let's get this done.
Okay. All right. Vulture, Adrian Toomes.
I'd say C.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I'd argue him for
one
B.
of the better villains.
You'd argue why C?
Let me think about it. I think the only reason I'm going with, actually,
I think he's
no.
in this...
I changed my mind. I'm gonna go.
I think he's I think he's very well written. I think he's in the same realm as Killmonger, where I think I love the material that he's given. I think you could do more with him, but I definitely think he's up there as one of the better villains for just being someone who's small scale, changed by the events of the Avengers, and ultimately he just wants to protect his family. I was thinking this literally just today. I was like, he's honestly he's a more heroic version of Walter White, where Walter White wanted to make decisions that would help his family, but it impacts them, and his family knows nothing about what he does, and they're none the wiser. They don't get hurt, and he doesn't want them to be involved in any way. And that's the kind of the frustration with Spider-Man. When he shows up, he's just I just want you to leave. You walk your way, I'll walk my way, so that we can go, because we both have our families. I'm like, it's great writing for him. So yeah, I
talked myself out of it. I'm going to put him in B.
Yeah. Rhodey.
Are we talking just on Cheadle or Rhodey and?
I think
both.
we're just talking him in general.
His character.
I would say.
I would put B.
I'd say B. I think I would agree.
Yeah, one notch above.
He's a good supporting character. Never great. I think only a couple, but consistently good.
Yeah, I actually think he's one of the better parts of Iron Man 2. I think they pour a lot into him.
He is. Absolutely.
Hope Van Dyne.
I'd say B.
Yeah.
I guess so.
Yeah.
Choose some stuff.
Consistently good.
Yeah, fun. I like her, Evangeline Lilly.
And I love her relationship with her father. I love the.
Yeah. That's one of the better parts.
Is about parents and their kids, essentially.
Whiplash.
D.
Probably E.
Oh yeah,
I'd say.
I think he's fair to go to E.
Yeah.
Mickey Rourke,
Sadly,
man.
once again, a lot of the scenes that are on the cutting room floor are better than what's in the movie. So I think that there was a good performance of cut it down. There was nothing really great about him outside of maybe that opening bit with his father.
All right. Black Widow. Oof. I
would definitely say A for her.
Yeah. I honestly would love to see more, because honestly my favorite movie with her is Winter Soldier, because I think that's where she's given the best material. There's some good stuff in Avengers, but even so, she's someone who is in desperate need of her own movie, and luckily she's getting her own movie, but it's not going to play in with the Avengers. So what I'm worried about is that they're going to Captain Marvel it, where it's some of the events don't make any sense. I hope they just make it small scale, man. I want them to just make it so it doesn't even feel like a superhero movie. That'd be my preference.
Just tell us a story about a spy and a.
Yeah,
I'm cool with that.
I'd love to see that, but yeah, I'd say A for her character. Really good writing. Is it Wong or?
It's Wong. Yeah.
C?
I would say.
Yeah.
I would say C. Yeah.
Great performance and really fun.
Fantastic performance.
I love him. Both in Infinity War and Doctor Strange, he's really entertaining. One of those characters who's cool to stick around for the action and can be funny. Yeah, it's great.
Right.
Yondu.
A.
B.
A.
I would say.
Guardians.
Let me see what's up there.
Guardians 2 did some fantastic work with him.
But
I would agree. I would say A.
You'd say A.
I think that
I'd say
the sum total of his impact pretty great.
Yeah, for me in the first Guardians,
Peter and with Rocket.
For me in the first Guardians, he's a little bit on the one note side, but I still do appreciate the material they gave him in Guardians 2. It's just that Guardians 2 is what redeems him, but would you say A tier?
Yes.
If there was Sam and Spider-Man,
This is what I'm thinking. Look at our, except for Peggy Carter. I would say that Guardians 2, he deserves that A status the way Peggy Carter deserves it first today.
All right, I'll put him in A. That's fair. Okay. Oh gosh, what's his name?
That's Young Rog, I think is his name.
Yeah.
I would say.
His name is Young Rog?
Young Rod or something like that. I think it's D.
Yeah, I'd love him to come
There's
back
not a
for a
whole lot
Captain
to
Marvel
criticize.
sequel, but it's just what they gave him, man. He's
Yeah.
bad guy 101. Zemo. A?
A. No, S.
I would say he's A.
I think he's one of the
I
better
might
villains.
argue.
He's
I would
definitely
say
one of
he's-
the best villains. Look at our group so far. I think he's the only villain outside Thanos we put above a B.
Yeah.
I think I would put him alongside Thanos. I think he is fantastic instead of Civil War.
Gavin, ask me again after the
Yeah, because
TV show because he's coming, and
Hmm?
I might put him in S tier.
yeah,
What?
He's coming back for the TV show with Bucky and Falcon.
I'd love to see more of him.
honestly, for me, yeah, like they don't give him much personal material. Like the best scene with him is the ending between him and Black
Personal
Panther.
material.
That's the ending with him and Black Panther. Other than that, like he's
All of his motivations are about personal.
no, his
things.
motivations are great, but like I'm talking about like dialogue and material with him. That's probably the only thing that like puts him in
Yeah.
A tier rather than S tier. But he's really well written.
Maybe.
Um,
I would absolutely put him in S tier.
Darren Cross, D,
The
yeah, very one note. Ebony Maw,
Ant-Man villains suck.
Probably C. Probably C.
yeah,
He's the one I remember.
agree. He's one of the Dark Order that actually
Black
has
Order,
a lot more
yeah.
personality. Black Order.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd say that. Yeah.
Oh gosh,
He's the
Oh,
first one who talks inside of Infinity War.
please help me. It's
Obadiah. I think it's Obadiah Stane.
C.
I'd say C. Yeah. I'd say he's average. He's not bad.
The best
He's better than Caecilius.
The best material with him is
I actually
the
kind of like his motivations and stuff. I think they do some good stuff with him.
the
He's
best.
not complicated, but he's simple, and I
Yeah.
think that his simplicity is his strength.
The best parts with him are in the first act and the second act rather than the third, but they still do a pretty
Yeah.
good job with him.
Once he
Um,
gets in the robot suit, he gets a little.
Sharon Carter.
Ooh, creepy kiss lady.
Yeah, well,
Probably C.
I'd love to see where else they go with her, but I always did find that creepy, like that kiss. I'm like,
Let me
Wait,
just put
what?
it this way: it was less creepy before Endgame.
yeah,
Wait, who is this?
I totally agree. That
I
made it
don't
a
know who
lot
this
worse.
is. Who is this?
It's Peggy Carter's niece. It's
Oh.
Sharon Carter.
Oh.
She spoke at the funeral. Remember? Yeah.
Ooh.
I love the material.
Weird.
I love the captain's orders scene with her, where she
Yes.
she defends the guys at the control. Like there's some good material with her, but like she's in a very
She's got some
awkward position.
standout stuff, but she's not. She's basically the person that's there instead of Peggy.
Yeah, which is unfortunate. Because I think that you could do some stuff there. Yeah, and Haley Atwell, good performance.
Yes.
Stan Lee, I guess, as a
Yes.
whole.
Put him in S.
But
Guys.
in the movies,
Can we just put
it
him in
seems
S?
like he's not a character.
Yeah,
He's a ooh, it's Stan Lee.
that's unfair. Like,
Can we put
It's
him?
Stan
Can we just
Lee.
put him on the back burner? Can we just put him on the back burner for now? It's
Yeah, we'll
he's
just-
not a character.
let's just leave him. I'll put him
Yeah.
over
Oh,
here.
man.
Um,
We'll get to-
And I
get
thought
to
I
him.
was heartless.
We can get to him later. Gavin, I love Stan Lee. But
Yeah.
in the movies, he's not Stan Lee.
yeah, like it all that
He is.
essentially is judging all of his different cameos, and it's like you can't. That's not a character. Aunt
Yes.
May. B.
I think probably.
B?
I think, yeah, I'll put her in B. I think Far From Home would put her in B for me.
Yeah, I want to see a lot more of their
More?
relationship. I'm just like
I think you can
Yeah.
do a lot of interesting stuff there.
she's been made a
but I
joke and
think
like how attractive looking she is. And I
I
really
might
want.
go for C actually, just
But
because I
she
don't think
is
she's gotten
genuine. This is the
much.
thing. She is genuinely funny. Marissa Tomei
Oh,
is
yeah.
genuinely really funny.
Yeah,
I just
I
want to see
think
more.
I might
lot
bump her
more.
down though. For me, at least.
I don't have a huge opinion on this. We want to bring her down to C.
I think she
I
has
think
enough
the
material. in
the
B.
most interesting thing is like the potential for her, but I think what we have right now it isn't very substantive.
This is what I like about her. Almost every interpretation of Aunt Bearing fussy with Peter. I like the fact that she's not. I like the fact that she actually gives Peter space and I feel like that actually draws them closer together. Because when she comes up to him and like hugs him, it means something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll put her in B. Again, I think there's so much more that you could do with her character, but from what she obviously is okay. What's this character's name again?
It's Aisha, I think it's her.
The girl.
She's
oh my
the leader
gosh,
of the
she's
Sovereign.
So funny.
I would definitely say C.
Yeah, she's hilarious, but like
she's fantastic. And
yeah,
I'm really hoping she's in the next.
Again, she's written as like a one-note character. She's supposed to be this just like imposing, like yelling, like outburst character, and she's fun for that. But it's like,
but she just. What's great about her is what I like about her the most is the extension of the theme of Guardians of the Galaxy 2, which is ultimately ego.
Yeah.
Like, she just oozes just contempt for everyone that isn't her.
I think probably one of my favorite scenes with her instead of Guardians 2 is like when they're drawing down like the red carpet.
Yes.
And it just sticks. And then everyone's just kind of sitting around for a while the person's trying to figure out how to fix the.
And it's like she refuses to acknowledge that.
Yeah, like her dignity levels, like. Man.
Yeah, she's pretty fantastic.
Yeah. Oh gosh, what's this guy's name? I forget. He's one of the.
That's I think it's Ebony Maw.
No.
No. Ebony Maw is.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's a. Corvus Glaive.
Corvus Glaive, that's right.
Yeah.
D.
I would say D.
D.
He could be more interesting if there was just a little more time.
Yeah.
I think kind of one of the interesting aspects about him is like with Proxima Midnight.
Yes.
Like them being siblings. I think that's
Their
interesting.
relationship is interesting.
Interesting enough to bump him up from E. So I think that's okay.
Yeah, definitely D.
Darcy.
Darcy.
E.
I don't like Darcy, but I would say she's not E, but she's definitely a D.
Well,
Yeah.
are we calling E strictly bad, or are we also involving E as in like devoid?
I would say C is middle of the road, and then D and below is when it starts to be either lack of content
I think
or
E
bad.
is kind of like bad. F is like the super bad. F is super bad, and
I
D
would
is
say
kind of like
F is
devoid
basically
of much
devoid.
character.
I would say F has no redeeming qualities.
Yeah,
I would
D
say
seems
E is bad.
D
Not
seems to
necessarily
kind of be
purely
like devoid of character, kind of thing.
I'd say D is like almost devoid of material. Like just there's nothing there. It's like, but her character.
Can we rename that like no material, something like that?
Darcy is a comic relief character.
Yeah.
She doesn't really have much personality outside of the jokes that she gives.
Yeah. I don't know this guy's name. He's one of the crew.
Who's that?
He's
Let
one
me
of the
zoom in on this.
He's one of the crew in Ant-Man.
Oh, it's the guy in Ant-Man. I don't know.
It's T.I., the rapper.
Yeah.
I think he's funny. I think
he is funny, but I'd say probably D.
Yeah.
He's once again a comic relief character.
Same with his counterpart. Where is the other guy?
Like I remember Luis a lot more.
Yeah. Okay.
The other guy, we can put him in there
From
too.
The Dark Knight.
I don't know this guy's name. What's?
Oh, is he one of the Thor characters?
He
Yeah.
is.
Fine. Give it to me.
What? D and E? Okay, yeah.
I'd say E.
Flash Thompson.
See?
I would say C based on Homecoming, or sorry, C based on Far From Home.
Yeah.
Oh, I would say C based on Homecoming. I think he's hilarious in Homecoming.
He is hilarious in Homecoming, but I think that he person in Far From Home. Like I love thing if you pay attention to it where you can tell he keeps trying to like reach his parents, and it made me think like, man, if he went snap during that whole period of time and he was gone for 5 years and he still can't get his parents to pay attention to him, how terrible must that feel? Like his parents must not have even like realized he was gone. Like that's how little they cared. So that kind of added a new layer to him.
Or his dad's just still pissed off that he crashed the car.
That's actually the face he's making is because Peter just crashed the car.
Right.
What is
I
don't
would
even
put
remember
this
his
guy
name.
in D, just because of Ragnarok.
just because of the fight scene? Because
If we're
like the
gonna
two
put
lines
this-
he.
if we're gonna put the other gal inside of D, I would put him inside of
Okay,
D.
fair
too.
enough. Put him in D. I don't know his name, but fair enough.
I don't know his name.
He has one fight scene.
I feel bad. I feel like I should know it.
For
I don't
one
know
fight
the
scene,
names
you
of
think
those
that puts him in D tier. You think that
If
puts
we
him on
have that
Caecilius.
gal, if we're putting
Gavin,
this little gal who has
She has
no
dialogue.
character,
I know her bloody name.
I don't know her name. I don't know the other guy's, the blonde
Lady
guy's
Sif.
name, and I know that guy. He's a warrior. He had a fight scene. Put him in D. He's
I don't have
not
a strong-
Mamu.
I don't have a strong opinion. Put him where you want him.
I'll throw him in D to whatever. Jane Foster.
Jane
Jane
Foster.
Foster. I am excited that she's actually going to be Thor because I think that the reason I would put her in D is she has nothing to do in the movies.
Yeah.
She's a fantastic actor who has nothing to do for 2 movies, and I completely understand why she
I might
decided to
argue with the
leave the
actor.
property after.
Compliment.
Okay, listen up very carefully.
I haven't seen much of her.
You have no ground to claim she's a bad actor.
Yeah,
I
she's
know.
been in
I'm
some
just-
really good
I'm
stuff.
saying this
I'm just
straight up.
going from the material that I've seen her. I don't really see her.
I love
true
you.
acting
Most of her
ability.
content is past the age that you can watch stuff right
Yeah.
now. But she's a
Alright.
fantastic actor. The
I
stuff
can
you've
admit
seen her in
maybe
is
there's a
not
lot
what-
of stuff that I haven't. There's a lot of stuff I haven't
My-
seen from her. From
my-
the material that I haven't seen much.
Honestly,
from her,
she
though.
was written back when, like, in the early superhero age of Marvel, and back then, like, you basically wrote in the girlfriend character, and, like, they didn't write her as anything more than that, and that's one of the reasons why they kind of just abandoned it and said, like, sorry that Jane dumped you, and, like, it was a mutual dumping, like, it just, they turned it
Right.
into a joke because she didn't feel like anything more than that, just a girlfriend, and it's like, yeah, so D, I think that's fair. Jarvis.
Jarvis.
I
would
would
put him in
say
C.
a very solid. Like
I like
Paul
Jarvis.
Bettany for essentially just Butler gave him a lot of personality.
Yeah. Made it like a voice performance actually really interesting, so yeah.
I love how we set it up there. He's C as Jarvis, and then we.
Yeah, when he became humanoid, he like that gave him an advantage.
Yeah.
What the hell is?
Oh, that's is his name Kurtz or something? He's from Thor: The Dark World.
I don't even remember him.
F.
I didn't
Let's
recognize
just stick
it.
him there.
Isn't he just a monstrosity? Like,
He's the guy that Malekith. I think he gives this weapon to that he like crushes it in his hand.
oh, that's
It
right.
basically turns him into this like monstrous version of a dark elf, and like he has a fight with Thor.
Does he even have any
put
dialogue?
I wouldn't put him in F. I would put him in E. He's on the same level as Malekith.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's just pretty boring.
Again, I don't know this guy's name. He's one of the crew.
I don't remember his name either.
I'd put him
I'd
next
put
to
him
his
in-
buddy.
Yeah, put him in D.
Yeah. The friend from Captain Marvel.
C.
D.
What?
She's the best. She's the best character in. She's the best character in Marvel for me.
It's not
Remember,
saying
we're putting
much.
Captain Marvel in the same tier, so I think yeah. See.
Yeah, but I think the problem is I wouldn't necessarily.
You wouldn't what?
Oh.
The reason I'm putting her
You're cutting out. What is it?
put in
Here, can you start over?
the reason I'm putting her C is because I don't really think there's any place for her in B, at least at this point.
Yeah. What is this?
Oh, is it Meek? That's Meek.
Meek.
Oh, is
It's
that from Thor
from
Ragnarok?
Thor Ragnarok, yeah.
Oh,
I like Meek, but
I like Meek.
He doesn't have personality. He does.
D.
D.
Maybe D. Fair enough.
I don't know
Rock,
this
paper, scissors,
character's
Joker.
name.
She's one of the bad guys in.
E.
She's the sniper. Yeah. Yeah.
He's played by Gemma Chan, I believe. Just read an interview.
Yeah, just not really any character. MJ.
Yeah. MJ surprised me. I would say probably C to start out with. I think
Close.
heading on her way to B.
Yeah.
Close
Close
to
to
B.
MA.
Definitely close to B.
Mm-hmm.
Not quite there yet.
I
Called
really liked her
Obsidian.
instead of Homecoming.
Called Obsidian.
Cole Obsidian. Probably.
Do we put
D?
D?
Where did we put? I would honestly put him with D.
Yeah, we put Ebony Maw in C. He has the most dialogue, but yeah, like those there, and then Proximate Midnight is
And like
next.
he's
so.
given the most clear-cut motivations.
I would put Proximate Midnight in C.
Yeah,
I think that her.
I think I would agree
I think
with that.
her and what's his name?
Ebony Maw.
Ebony Maw, I think, are the best of the Black Order.
I agree. They're like the others are basically villains. Like I don't even think Call Obsidian has any lines, so it's like yeah.
Nova
jeez,
Corps guy?
John C. Reilly plays him. I forgot what his name is. He's one of the Nova Corps members.
I think we just said it there. He's a D.
Yeah.
But I don't remember his name. He was funny, but that's about it.
Eric Selvig.
Devoid of character.
Stellan
Thor
Skarsgård.
2.
Yeah.
I think the unfortunate side effect of the Avengers turned him into a crazy person who really personality.
Yeah, man. Stellan Skarsgård is such a great character, and I like him in the Avengers. But I mean, I would love to see Stellan Skarsgård get better.
I like him in the first Thor.
Yeah.
Outside of that, I don't really like him.
Yeah, D's all right. Oh gosh,
Jasper Sitwell.
Jasper Sitwell. I remember it actually.
I would say
I think I'd put him in D.
I'd put him in D. The only reason I would even
Wait, what was the reason? You cut out again?
I would put him in D, but the only reason I would consider putting him in C is that soldier.
Yeah, that surprised me in Winter Soldier when he was actually a Hydra agent. Like, I love that they turned someone who like was you figured wouldn't be. That was actually kind of a good twist. I was like, wow. So I still think he's probably D. Sonny Birch.
Texas.
D.
Probably D. He's kind of fun, but he's not like Justin. Like Justin Hammer was a lot more charismatic and fun than I think he managed to pull off.
Yeah, like Walton Goggins, like he's in The Hateful Eight. I love him in that, but it's like he kind of plays the same character in all movies, and he doesn't break type enough or like go over the top enough to be memorable. So Sylvester Stallone, I don't.
Ravager Stallone.
Probably D. He's only in 2 scenes, really.
I might put her with the blue sniper though.
I wouldn't put him with the blue sniper.
He has that scene
He's
with
got
Yondu.
more personality than that.
I guess so.
Another one of the Thor guys who's D for sure.
Probably D. Yeah.
I don't know his name.
Sorry, actor. That we're just gonna like tossing
Get out.
Daniel Kaluuya. I love. He was great in Widows. I love him, but it just.
I would put him in C. I think he's better than a lot of the people.
I think
he's not a major player, but he does have a major play in that movie, and every scene he's in.
Yeah,
even the scene where he's farming rhinos.
He beats.
Yeah, I love that scene where Okoye basically tells him that, regardless of their relationship, she run him.
Yeah. He definitely beats
to protect Wakanda.
Yeah, he definitely
has
beats
some character with like wanting to get Claw.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is more willing to go. Feels like Wakanda. That's kind of his role in the movie.
Yeah, he has a different perspective.
That's his point. That's his. All right, we almost done.
Yeah, I think that is the end. So yeah, Stan Lee.
Is that it?
Stan
Lee?
I just leave him off the list, man. I mean, he's
just
not a
leave him off the
character.
list.
Oh, come on.
Where would you put him,
somewhere.
Gavin? Like I said, he's a cameo. Unless
Put
we
the Stan Man somewhere.
I am not putting him in S. I'm sorry.
Unless we are going
not a-
by the theory that he's a watcher, I'm just like he's not a character. He's
Stan
like
deserves this.
We saw the Watchers. He was talking to them. He's
Okay,
Yeah.
let's go with something.
we'll just leave him off. What?
Let's just go. No. For charismatic performances, what would you put him at?
Okay,
D.
D.
He doesn't have a character. He's funny when he shows up, but he does not have a person.
That's generous, by the way. Where would you put him?
Coulson tier at least.
Coulson tier. On par with the Koye.
Yeah.
No.
Aw.
You need a
I'm putting my
character.
foot down.
You need a character to be
I
in C
love
tier.
Stan.
All right.
I love Stanley too, but in the movies,
Yeah. That's just they don't have any. So that's the end of the
that's
list.
interesting. We had 8 S tiers.
Yeah. And I remember laughing. I was going through this. I'm like,
definitely argue
a lot of the Guardians of the Galaxy. So yeah, we can argue some of this away. So does any hold on? Let's start from the top. Does anyone disagree with S tier?
No.
Well, Zemo and S tier. Is that what you're arguing?
Yes. Absolutely.
Not enough.
I'm willing to put him there, knowing that we're not going to have him in another. But I would still argue that he's A tier. That's just my opinion, but I'm willing to bump him up to S tier, knowing that we're not going to have another movie to make.
I think from a character writing standpoint, he is fantastic.
I
would say he is like a reflection of Thanos, where Thanos is big and intimidating and operatic. He is subdued, quiet, and extraordinarily down to earth as a villain. So I would be willing to support Gavin's nomination to S tier based on.
Do you want to bump him to S?
I personally feel he's A.
I think he's A2.
To make that argument.
It's close.
If you guys are resolute on A, we can keep him at A, but I firmly believe he should be in S.
I respect that opinion. I would say he's very close. I would put him in A.
All right. Let's leave him at A. Anyone from A that you think should be in S other than Zemo, or should be knocked down?
No, I think everyone we have there belongs in A.
Yeah, I would maybe argue Thor down, and I'm like I said, Yondu just a drop, but I think they both are pretty much belonging. Like I said, Thor's...
I think both of those characters earned their A though.
I agree.
They didn't start out A, but they earned.
Yeah, the only thing for me is Thor like being a bouncy ball through all of them. I would love to see him given a little bit more. So
I thought you were referring to the fact that he's fat. It's a bouncy ball.
No,
once again, Fat Thor is awesome.
I wish they hadn't.
It's a good decision to make him that.
They shouldn't have given him as many jokes. They should have gone for a lot more scenes. But still, it's just cool for what they have.
I agree with that. I do agree with that.
B. Anyone?
Ancient One. I think I might put her in Baby Groot tier.
Well, she's already.
I actually would be willing to jump her up to A.
I think she's close. What material bumps her down, Gavin? As a supporting mentor?
Have much. I think most of it's just the performance. She has clear set gold. I definitely wouldn't put her with A. One of my people on A.
One of my favorite scenes in Avengers Endgame, Bruce lets slip that Doctor Strange gave the Time Stone to Thanos, and for the first time in the entirety of her time in the MCU, she seems completely confused. She seems like, what are you talking about? Like, for the first time, she doesn't really know what, and she realizes that she just has to trust this guy that all that she knows about is what he's supposed to be, and she just goes with it. She immediately gives Bruce the Time Stone and says, "Okay, I trust him." Like, I thought that was a huge moment for her character. Someone that's basically lived her entire existence trying to control the turning of the clock, knowing that her time is coming. So,
I don't think she deserves to be up there with Yondu and Ant-Man and stuff like. And
I think she's a drop away. I think she's a very solid B. She'd be like a B plus if we were to like give her a rating.
I'm making my case for that.
But I fear her being an A, so I will keep her in Black Panther tier.
Let Dan go on. What was it?
I agree. I'm just making the case for it because I think she could be given that spot, but I do think that B is at least reasonable.
Yeah. Okay. Again, if we were to subdivide this more, I think she could be in like a B plus. I think she's really close to A, or even an A minus. She's really good though. Anyone else?
No, I think everyone there looks pretty solid.
Stark. I would argue Black Panther, but I that would take too long.
Slower. Well, you'd probably want to do the same for Killmonger.
I'm definitely not putting him.
Yeah, I don't think he belongs in C. I would maybe side with you if you wanted Coulson, like Killmonger, to be in Coulson tier, but I think considering like the standard of the villains we have. Like I think he's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
He's a turn towards the right direction at least. And
I
again,
think it's interesting that almost every villain we see has happened in these latter movies.
yeah. And it's a result of Thanos. It's because of how well written he was. They realized, holy crap! Let's.
Do you
let's
guys
start
want to
doing
know
it.
one of the reasons why a lot of the bad guys in the MCU suck?
Why?
There's a guy named Ike Perlmutter. He's one of the guys. He's one of the guys that bought Marvel, the comics when they were like at the verge of bankruptcy. He's a toy guy, and if you read about him and his, do you remember the story about when Kevin Feige went to Alan Horn, the president of Disney, and basically told him that? Did you ever hear the story about Ike Perlmutter and Kevin Feige?
About them what?
Did you ever hear the story about Ike Perlmutter?
He cut
Captain
out
America
again.
Civil War.
Maybe speak a little slower, like about Ike Perlman and Kevin Feige. What is it?
Sorry. Have you heard the story about the big clash that Kevin Feige and Ike Perlmutter had over Captain America Civil War?
No, what was it?
No.
Basically, Ike Perlmutter, for most of the MCU's was arguing against a lot of the things that Kevin Feige wanted. Like Kevin Feige early on in the Panther movie wanted to make a Marvel movie. And he had to vet this because of the way that everything was structured in the company. He had to vet these ideas past Ike Perlmutter and a committee that Ike Perlmutter had set up to basically vet ideas that Kevin had. And basically Ike's response was, no, black superheroes and women's superhero movies don't make money. He's the reason why there were...
Boy.
Because he basically said, no, girl toys don't sell. Or girl action figures don't sell. He was, to put it rather plainly, a bit of a jerk and an extreme tightwad when it came to money. So that when it came to Captain America Civil War, and it came down to basically paying Robert Downey Jr. to be in the movie since he was going to be a major character, Ike Perlmutter basically said, you know what? No, we're going to fire him and you're going to figure out something else. He actually argued that instead of Tony being in the movie, Bruce should be in the movie as the guy in Captain America.
What?
So, that being said, this is what happened. Kevin Feige went past Ike Perlmutter straight to the office of Alan Horn and basically gave him an ultimatum. He basically told him, either you get Ike Perlmutter out of my business or I walk.
Seriously?
Ooh.
Dead serious.
Oh, wow.
He made an ultimatum. I am not doing this anymore. And Alan Horn intervened and basically restructured the company so that Kevin Feige reported directly to him, and Ike Perlmutter, he still had management over like the merchandise and whatnot because he's the toy guy, and the television shows. Kevin Feige would have full authority over the movies.
Is that
so
why
the
Agents
reason
of
why
Shield sucks?
Well, the reason why I think Daredevil and like most of the original shows had very little to do with is they were being run by a guy who had a bone to pick with the guy running the MCU. And I think the reason why a lot of the shows that we're going to be getting in the near future, like the Clint Barton, like the Hawkeye show and the WandaVision show, the reason why those are going to be more finely tuned into the MCU is that they're going to be run Kevin Feige's side of the house. So, just a little fun behind-the-scenes story about why a lot of those early MCU movies struggle, especially when it comes to the women characters and the villains. Is Ike Perlmutter was basically the textbook example of a producer who's just mind his creative people do their thing because he has terrible ideas.
Glad they suppressed it. Anyone
Back
else?
to C tier. The only
So-
the only person who I would disagree with vehemently in C tier is Captain Marvel.
I
but
figured.
I'm too tired. I'm too tired. I don't want to. I don't want to go into debate of this right now.
I think again.
She's not a bad character. She's just not
given.
explored
man,
enough
she's
to actually have anything there.
Yeah,
She's a bad character. But
She's not a bad character.
Gavin.
I
Like,
would argue
I don't
against
think it's
that.
higher.
there's not
I
enough.
know that
It's midnight.
You need to expand on her. Like, admit this. Like, you can make another movie and you can give more character to her. It's not like what you is gonna are writing is gonna like contradict much of anything because there hasn't been much written for her character. So it's like she's been unwritten essentially. She needs to be given material. So yeah, I think she's C.
So.
All right. Anyone else? Or I think that's reasonable. D. Yeah, do you guys think the list is actually pretty solid, or?
I think
Wait a
so. I
minute.
think we managed
What
to.
Orange Beard guy? I would put him with his counterpart.
Where's Orangebeard?
Orange Beard is right where you're scrolling.
This-
Go-
Oh,
He just wants you to like move him over a tab.
Adjust him over.
Wait, really? Oh no! Move him down.
Oh, down to here. Oh,
I
Yeah.
wouldn't move him down that far. He has a lot of personality. He has at least some.
What about that guy?
He shines more in the first Thor movie. That guy is
If
just.
you're willing to argue that the
For one fight
goatee
scene.
guy should be in one fight scene, I'm gonna argue
I did it out of
like
spite
the
because you
scenes
put
where he
Red
like eats an
immediately.
entire table of food.
Yeah, that one scene is funny, and
What
that
about
guy.
that guy?
This
down
is the
there?
thing. I think all of them belong in E
You
tier, but
wanna
we're
know
like,
the sad thing about
Let's
the
be
guy that we
consistent
haven't-
then and put that other guy with the other random people.
I
Can I
can't.
make an argument why he should belong in E and the other guy shouldn't?
Why?
Did you know that actor was recast?
I did know that he was recast, and like barely anyone knew.
Nobody gave a crap.
Yeah.
At least the other actors were the original actors.
Yeah, and they showed up in Thor Ragnarok to die. That guy, yeah. I can at least name traits in 2 scenes for those other guys. That this guy is just the bottom of the barrel in regards to the other characters. Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, I think that's pretty
I think
solid.
Dormammu kind of deserves to be in it. In all
I
honesty.
disagree with that.
He's
He
given
is
the one
effective.
scene with Doctor Strange. That's pretty cool. Like
I
what they
like
give
the
him.
scene with Doctor Strange, but character-wise, he's a black hole. He
Well,
doesn't
again,
really have
Gavin,
anything.
F is like 0 redeeming traits, like Goose, and like those are like characters who like literally have
with
no
Goose and other Goose.
nothing to them. So
Dormammu is a dark dimension of. You don't need him to have like much more beyond that.
True.
yeah. All right.
I would
there's-
definitely argue away Caecilius.
Well, there's a couple other things like I said. If you
Well,
were
actually,
to
I think
subdivide
Caecilius
this,
kind of deserves to be where he is.
yeah, if you were to subdivide this, you could add like pluses and minuses, and like we could be here for a long
Would you
time
seriously
debating
put
away.
the blue
but-
guy in there? The blue sniper, not in devoid of character realm?
Gemma
We
Chan.
put her in E character.
We put her in E. We put her in
I
F.
think she deserves to be in devoid of character.
You would
Rather-
put her in
Okay.
D.
I'm willing to put her there.
Just because she's devoid of character and not necessarily like.
Well, that was
Dormammu.
just what I called it. I just called it D for devoid of character because it starts with the D. I didn't.
Ah.
I don't know. I just put her. I don't know. Do you guys think it's pretty solid? Good.
I think it's solid.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
The only two I very much disagree with would be Captain Marvel and Zemo.
Zemo. Yeah. I like I said. I think Zemo's close to an S tier, but I would love to see more. And again, it's the same for Captain Marvel. Just more could expand her. So it's difficult to figure out. So yeah.
I will argue that if we're looking at S tier as in like takes the character to a place that's new and fresh, I think that Zemo does meet that criteria. I just think that S tier, I think the thing that's consistent with all those in S tier is they've had multiple movies
Yeah.
to really shine on a consistent basis. And
I think I would have put Thanos in S tier regardless of whether Endgame had come out or not.
possibly, but I don't know. It's that's the only reason I'm holding back. one movie, and he's not in a lot of it. But I do agree that he is stellar, and the way they use him, like, because I mean, in the comics, he wears like a red sock over his face and like fights Captain America with a sword. Like,
Yeah.
that's not necessarily going to translate.
He's purple Deathstroke.
Yes, and they managed to find a way to make him completely different, but also completely correct for how that character has come into conflict with Steve Rogers. Like, he attacks him in unexpected ways, like rarely in a direct fashion.
Yeah. All right. We should probably close out. Thanks for staying along the way, Dan. I'm glad this took
No
longer
worries.
than I figured.
Sorry, guys. I've been.
Yeah, Comic-Con. You have work. I completely get it. So
How long
yeah.
is this? How long have we been doing?
I think it's gonna be like 3 hours or something.
I think it's close to 3 hours, man. This just
we spent a long time on
we were talking about so many characters. Like even when we were fast tracking, we had to stop at the occasional ones. So
MCU's packed, man.
yeah. There were lists.
And just remember,
longer.
everyone, if any,
how's OBS doing? I never even thought about this
I think it's still
because
on.
they're extended now.
Yeah, it's still recorded. So yeah.
Oh, but we don't show S tier anymore.
No S tiers. What do you mean?
so to any poor soul
go back to
that may have
OBS.
to make their way through this for 3 hours, so just realize that this list is
not
indeed
showing everything.
What is it?
What do you mean it's not showing everything?
OBS isn't showing everything.
Well, if I just scroll up a little more, like, you mean could have done that? Is that better?
Huh? No,
The
look at
tops of their
OBS.
heads?
Look at OBS.
I am. It's
It's not
up-
even
it's
not showing everything.
It's showing the top. It doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't show everybody because it extended long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
it was extended.
Dan,
Oh, man.
you were saying something?
I was just saying sorry to anyone who's got about it as we were just like talking to each other.
Yeah.
Just remember this: like, this list that we put together is the definitive list.
Yeah.
Yes.
These are the correct answers.
No changes, no deviations.
No changes. Yeah. Like,
Oh my gosh.
just think about it. We spent so much time like putting this list together, and like, that's got to mean something.
It's gotta.
Sorry, this is me at 11:40. I'm next to
Oh my
people
gosh.
visible.
Oh boy.
Yeah. But yeah, this was fun. Yeah, we'll try to do more. Like honestly, it'll be better to start earlier, man, if we can. Like this, like we should probably plan this out in
we need
advance
to
because
practice this format
we
a lot
started at like
more.
8 after we like figured everything out. But yeah, if we can get this stuff mastered, we might be able to do stuff like hopefully the US debate. If we can get that put together, yeah, that'd be awesome. So.
Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna close out OBS so we can go to bed. But yeah. Thanks for staying up, Dan. This was fun. So. All right.
No worries. It's good that we were able to try it.
All right. Sounds good. All right.
Bye bye, peoples.
Bye. Thanks for listening. We will see you guys later.